Focus 5, Second Edition by Sue Kay, Vaughan Jones, Monica Burles, Heather Jones, Daniel Brayshaw, Dean Russell, and Amanda Davis. Published by Pearson. Copyright Pearson Education Limited 2020.
One 1.2 1.
Tolerant, unprejudiced.
2.
Stubborn, obstinate.
3.
Quick-witted, sharp.
4.
Disrespectful, irreverent.
5.
Thoughtful, considerate.
6.
Practical, down to earth.
7.
Loyal, faithful.
1.3 1.
Top position, dizzy heights.
2.
Experience difficulties, suffer hardships.
3.
Modest presence, unassuming manner.
4.
Homemade goodies, home-baked treats.
5.
Bring back images, conjure up memories.
6.
Strength and determination, iron will.
7.
Lack of height, diminutive stature.
8.
Show their acceptance, nod in approval.
1.4 1.
Birthday treat.
2.
Blot out memories.
3.
Face hardships.
4.
Forthright manner.
5.
Free will.
6.
Imposing stature.
7.
Lofty heights.
8.
Require approval.
1.5 1.
Remain calm. Not show any shock. Not bat an eyelid.
2.
Finds the good things about somebody. Sees the best in somebody.
3.
A disproportionate amount. More than her fair share.
4.
Asserts something strongly. Puts her foot down.
5.
Carried on as normal. Got on with it.
6.
Behaved as if something did not worry her. Put on a brave face.
7.
A very old age. The ripe old age.
1.6
Being friends. Friendships provide some of the most captivating narratives in literature. Each of the stories on this list points to a different facet of friendship and offers insight into what it means to be a good and loyal friend.
A. Huck and Tom in the Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain.
It is only in Chapter 6 of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer that we are introduced to Huckleberry Finn, Homeless and carefree, his father a vagabond, the teenage boy is idolised by the local children and detested by their parents. Bad influence or not, Huck strikes up a friendship with Tom and the boys become inseparable. That's the beauty of a firm and long-lasting friendship. You associate with someone and sing their praises in spite of their shortcomings.
B. Sheila and Margot in How Should a Person Be? By Sheila Hetty.
The protagonist, Sheila, is a divorcee in her 20s writing a play. When she realises she is stuck in a rut, she meets a gifted painter, Margot. The woman turns out to be a godsend as she becomes a source of inspiration for Sheila. Both characters in the novel are based on real people, the writer herself and her friend whose relationship shifts and evolves as deep friendships do. It sustains itself, although it has its ups and downs. On the one hand, the women sometimes quarrel about insignificant things like a dress. On the other hand, however, as she underlines in the prologue, the author appreciates that Margot is such a laid-back person and that her easy-going attitude to life infects her circle of friends.
C. Amir and Hassan in The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini.
True friends never part, and the friends we make when we're very young stay with us forever. Two boys grow up together in Afghanistan. One, Amir, comes from a wealthy, privileged background. The other, Hassan, is poverty-stricken, his caste shunned by all others. But this division can't prevent the bonds of friendship from developing, and the boys are inseparable. When he's needed, Amir returns to his homeland to redress past wrongs done to his truest companion.
D. Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy in Little Women by Louisa May Alcott.
Little Women proves that your blood relations, however different they are from you, can establish an unbreakable tie with you and become your most intimate friends. The novel is the story of a nuclear family consisting of 4 sisters aged from 12 to 16 and their mother. This is a rough time for both the family and the country. The father is away serving as chaplain in the US Civil War. The second oldest, Jo, doesn't condone the idea of any of them ever getting married because she feels this would destroy the emotional bond between them. But as they pass from girlhood to womanhood, Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy remain devoted friends and back one another unconditionally against all the odds.
E. Horatio and Hamlet in Hamlet by William Shakespeare.
Best friends stand by you through thick and thin, and Prince Hamlet is in dire need of succour. King Hamlet was assassinated by his brother, Claudius, who married the protagonist's mother shortly after the murder to ascend the throne of Denmark. King Hamlet's ghost pleads with his son to avenge his tragic death, and the young prince decides to feign madness in order to confuse his enemies. Horatio, Prince Hamlet's faithful friend, is the only person that can be trusted with his morally controversial plans. Hamlet's attempt on Claudius's life fails and, spoiler alert, but is there anyone who doesn't know this classic story? After a series of bloody murders, Horatio is the only survivor to recount the protagonist's story. Had Hamlet lived, he would definitely have appreciated his loyal friend's love and unwavering support that proved to be stronger than life.
F. Jules, Ethan, Jonah, Kathy, Goodman and Ash in The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer.
6 artistically gifted teenagers, Jules, Ethan, Jonah, Kathy, Goodman and Ash, meet at a summer camp in 1974. They form a group called The Interestings, which is the starting point for a lifelong bond. This compelling story tracks the characters' lives over a period of several decades. Their friendship is a complex one, and Wolitzer manages to show a full range of emotions in a very accurate portrayal of the multiple relationships they develop within the group. Love and resentment, equanimity and jealousy are all involved. At the end of the day, being envious of a friend is just as natural as being happy for them. The reader sees the characters growing up and slowly aging as the sequence of events unfolds over time. It is incredibly interesting to observe how their friendship adapts to the ever-changing conditions of life.
1.7.
And now to our final story. You know how they say that sometimes meeting the right person can change your life? Well, Jordan Aksani thought he had met that person. Her name was Elizabeth Gallagher. They fell in love and were on the verge of taking a romantic trip together. They were going to travel around the world. They would spend Christmas Day in Vienna, and then they were visiting 8 countries in 3 weeks. It was going to be the trip of a lifetime. But shortly before the trip was due to take place, the couple split up. Although Jordan had lost the love of his life, he wasn't planning on missing out on the trip as well. So he decided to go with someone else. The only problem was that he couldn't change the name on the tickets. So he started a search on social media for another Elizabeth Gallagher. But that wasn't the only requirement. He also wanted to share the ticket with someone who would not otherwise be able to afford the trip. And in the end, he found the perfect partner, Elizabeth Quinn Gallagher, a 23-year-old student. As they were on the point of starting their trip, a hotel chain got in touch and offered them 2 free hotel rooms at each of their destinations. It really was a dream come true.
1.8.
Last week, I took part in an interesting experiment and thought that maybe you'd like to hear about it. I got involved through one of my psychology lecturers. She explained that her team was looking at the factors involved in forming first impressions and was looking for volunteers. Well, I was intrigued as that's the topic of my major assignment this semester. And I had some free time as I just finished an essay, so I signed up. The experiment was simple. Basically, we had to sit in front of a computer and watch a slideshow. The slide showed photos of people's faces accompanied by information about the person. For example, that they'd been convicted of a minor crime or that they frequently did charity work. We had to study the photos for a couple of minutes and then try to recall them. I found this easy as I'm good at remembering faces. We were then told to come back 3 days later. I chatted about the experiment with a friend and we both wondered what the next step would be. I figured it would include some kind of memory test. My friend thought that maybe we'd get to meet the people. So, 3 days later, back we went and sat at the same computers, and we were asked to look at the same faces. I'd been right after all. This time, we were told to tick a box each time, stating whether we thought the person looked trustworthy or not. It was actually very challenging, and I felt quite stressed as the participants in my group only saw each photo for less than a second. I was exhausted by the end and not at all confident that I'd given the right answers. Meanwhile, my friend, who had been put in a different group, had also been doing the test, but her experience had differed from mine. Even though the collection of photos was the same, the participants in her group had been given much longer to look at the faces, remember the facts about them, and use that information to make decisions. And of course, we understood, as we talked about it later, that that was the crux of the experiment. The length of time the different groups of participants had to form their impressions, not actually the impressions themselves. Once the experiment was over, the team explained the background to the test. They described how originally they'd asked an earlier group of volunteers to look at the photos and rate the people as trustworthy or untrustworthy based on their faces and expressions. The team had then added made-up personal information to each photo. Sometimes the information coincided with the physical impression described by the original group of volunteers. For example, a person with a trustworthy face might be described as being an upstanding citizen, but sometimes it didn't, and a trustworthy face was labeled as having a criminal record. This really surprised me, as I had assumed the personal information was genuine when asked to read it. The team conducting the experiment then explained that the volunteers in my friend's group, who'd been given longer the second time they viewed the photos, had generally matched the faces to the categories based on the facts they could recall and not the people's appearance. Those of us who had only had a split second for our second viewing judged according to appearances, even if the information we'd managed to remember in that short time contradicted our judgments. I found that pretty worrying, actually. I mean, the experiment seems to confirm that when we see someone for the first time, in that first split second, our minds are already judging them, not on facts, but on a simple gut reaction. That bothers me, being judged in that way. Doesn't it bother you?
1.9.
1,
Charity work.
2,
Criminal record.
3,
Gut reaction.
4,
Minor crime.
5,
Split second.
6,
Upstanding citizen.
1.10.
1,
Coincidence. Coincide. Coincidental.
2,
Contradiction. Contradict. Contradictory.
3,
Impression. Impress. Impressive. Impressionable.
4,
Length. Lengthen. Elongate. Long.
5,
Volunteer. Volunteer. Voluntary.
1.11.
What is that? A quiz?
Yeah, kind of. In class, we were talking about first impressions and how sometimes they can be right and how much you can tell just from looking at a picture. Would you like to have a go? It's kind of fun.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Judging from appearances. And first impressions can often be wrong. But okay, why not? So what do I need to do?
First, you need to look at this photo and say what you think about the person in it.
Well, she looks a bit of a mystery. I mean, kind of aloof and distant. Not really the free and easy type. I can't really see much of her because of the low light, but I can just make out her facial expression. At first glance, I thought she looked a bit pensive and melancholic, or even as if she might be angry or upset. But on closer inspection, I'd say although she looks introspective and thoughtful at the same time, she seems happy. Or maybe content is the right word. Judging by the sunset, I'd say she's at the end of a long, relaxing walk on the beach. It's not really her facial expression that makes me think she's content. It's something to do with the setting and the way she seems to be lost in herself, like she's got all the time in the world and is deep in thought. But then again, I could be wrong about all of that. I mean, it isn't a very natural shot. It's hard to say, but it almost seems a bit staged. I mean, she's posing, isn't she? And there's something about the angle, as if the photographer wanted to get the lighting just right.
Okay, now you have to read the 3 profiles and see if you can guess which one she is.
$1.12.
Sometimes we try to stop ourselves, but we just can't control the urge. We get ourselves involved in a verbal conflict that is often met with an immediate sense of regret. But arguing, is it really such a bad thing? Philosopher Daniel H. Cohen says that there are 3 kinds of argument. There's the argument as proof, the argument as presentation, and there's the argument as war. Now, the first of these are scientific arguments designed to prove a theory is either correct or incorrect. They involve experimentation, investigation, and the formation of hypotheses, the search for the objective truth. The second of these are those types of argument that are purely for the sake of it, performed in front of a captive audience like a kind of spectator sport. They often involve playing devil's advocate in order to force debate, and there's often very little outcome other than the thrill of being involved in the act and entertaining onlookers with witty comebacks. But it is the last of these which is the most prevalent, the argument as war, the adversarial taking on of an opponent who has a different opinion. Now, the fact that we have so many different terms to describe the phenomenon gives us a clue as to how much a part of our lives it actually is. Whether it be a quarrel, a squabble, a wrangle, or a dispute, plenty of the people we interact with on a daily basis are going to think differently to ourselves, and it is, therefore, an inevitable fact that with some of these people, conflict will ensue. Interestingly, however, scientists have proven that people who argue with those close to them are more likely to be more considerate to others confronted during the day. That means they're less likely to be the instigators of road rage, push people out of the way in the street, or fight for that last seat on the train. Another positive knock-on effect of arguments is that people who regularly get involved in them are known to have a longer life expectancy than those that tend to bite their lip and bottle their true feelings up. These latter types are much more likely to explode at some point in the future, rather like a time bomb ticking inexorably towards an explosion of epic proportions. And there's more good news. Arguing is actually good for your relationship. How so? Arguing equals communication, the exchange of information and views that are considered important enough to share when one feels safe enough to share them. They are an expression of honesty, of trust, of respect. If you really care about a relationship, you want to express such truths rather than simply brush them under the carpet. So as long as you keep your arguments to the point and remember to actually listen to what your partner is saying, feel free to go ahead and get it all out in the open. Whatever you do, though, make sure that you don't get involved in personal attacks. Then a good argument needn't be an act of war as much as one that will create a stronger bond and a healthier, longer life.
1.13
1,
Situation full of problems. Minefield.
2,
Overwhelmed by. Swimming in.
3,
Repeat. Regurgitate.
4,
Moving. Flitting.
5,
Very busy. Manic.
6,
A lot of advice. All the advice under the sun.
7,
Reminding. Hammering.
8,
Exhausted. Frazzled.
9,
Covered. Plastered.
10,
Upcoming. Looming.
1.14
1,
Find something. Come by something.
2,
Having a problem to deal with. Faced with.
3,
Achieve something. Notch something up.
4,
Happening before something. Leading up to something.
5,
Take effect. Kick in.
6,
Arrange something in a clear way. Set something out.
7,
Adding something to get it to the level you want. Topping something up.
1.15.
Hello,
Hi, Ben. Where are you?
I'm at home.
What are you doing later? I thought you might like to come out.
Oh, I can't. I've got to catch up on my work. It's starting to pile up.
What work?
I need to brush up on my French. We've got a test, remember?
But that's not till next week. You need to cook up a better excuse than that.
It's not an excuse. I've also got to read up on the Second World War for history.
Oh, lighten up. It's Friday night. Do your reading now, and then you can come out when you've finished. It won't take long.
I'm not like you. It's easy for you. You love history. You lap it up.
Well, I do like history. But listen, I've summoned up the courage to ask you out. The least you can do is say yes.
Oh, well, OK then. Give me half an hour.
1.16.
1,
Try to have enough of something. Summon something up.
2,
Invent something. Cook something up.
3,
Collect or accumulate something. Pile something up.
4,
Enjoy experiencing something. Lap something up.
5,
Become less serious or upset. Lighten up.
6,
Practice and improve a skill. Brush up on a skill.
1.17. How do you cope with exams, Amy?
Not very well. I try to keep things in perspective. I tell myself it's just an exam and what's the worst that could happen? But unfortunately, it doesn't calm me down. I'm a bundle of nerves on the day of the exam, and by the time the exam starts, my heart is pounding and my mind goes blank. I force myself to get a grip, but I'm sure I don't perform as well as I could because of the nerves.
How about you, Matt?
I get butterflies in my stomach before an exam. But once the exam starts, it's as if a weight has been lifted and a calm comes over me and I just get on with it. I suppose it's because I know there's nothing more I can do. The period leading up to the exam is when I'm a nervous wreck.
And you, Rob?
It depends on how confident and prepared I feel. If I know I've done the work, I'll take exams in my stride. But if I feel unprepared or out of my depth, I'll get nervous and probably make a mess of the exam.
Sally, how do you cope with exams?
It might sound weird, but I actually like exams. I think I perform well under stress. I'm not the kind of student who does all their coursework and gets consistently good marks. I tend to cram for a couple of weeks and sail through the exams. Of course, I forget everything 2 weeks later.
1.18. Study abroad. Take a leap into the unknown. There is no better way to break the monotony of everyday university life than choosing to study overseas. A little bit of impulse can go a long way, says James Connington.
University so far has been a bit of a challenge, but one that has become familiar with repetition. Heading into my third year, I'm used to life in London, used to what is expected of me by University College London, I think, and used to justifying my exorbitant rent to my friends in different parts of the country. Life has fallen into a comfortable series of routines. I go to lectures, work part-time, write a lot of essays and muster the energy to go out when possible. In the face of all this familiarity, I have made the slightly impulsive decision to spend a term of my final and most important year studying in Germany, despite speaking absolutely no words of the language. My modules are taught in English and many Germans speak it well, but according to the ever-reliable Wikipedia, I will be unable to communicate with around 36% of the population. I'm currently in the preparation phase of this adventure, with roughly 6 weeks to go until I fly out to the former German capital, Bonn. I have many justifications for this leap into the unknown. Like the thousands of other students heading abroad from the UK this coming year, my reasons include life experience, a desire to travel, and something to stand out from the crowd on a CV. The main one, however, is simply to break up what has become routine and to experience the excitement of a new city and a new university all over again. I'm sure that many students weigh up studying abroad as a series of pros and cons, or a question of whether the grass will be greener on the other side. I would argue that students should think less about whether heading abroad is going to be better and simply view it as an unparalleled opportunity to step outside of their comfort zone. However, there are many students each year who let themselves get put off during the application stage. Of course, a lot of people simply don't want to study abroad, but for those who just get cold feet, I think a little bit of impulse can go a long way. Once you're committed to the process, dealing with the prospect of living abroad becomes substantially easier, and you actively look for the positives rather than any downsides. But there are some administrative hurdles to get through first. Logistically speaking, it's very different to previous application processes that any student might have experienced. Universities have study abroad teams, host preparation talks, and they tell you what you need to do, but it requires a lot of independent effort. Arranging visas, sorting out accommodation both abroad and for your return, registering for modules and meeting all of the deadlines for paperwork is solely up to you. You will get prodded by your university, but you need to take a proactive approach, as study abroad teams tend to be small, whilst the number of students being sent and received is vast. From a financial standpoint, the Erasmus programme in particular is a very attractive opportunity, particularly for London students used to high living costs. In addition to the regular student loan, students get a grant which varies according to the living costs of the country in question. Many of those venturing further afield outside of this programme have already left and can provide some valuable lessons for those still preparing to go. Utilising pre-existing networks of students can provide invaluable information that can make all the difference to daily life abroad. Mari Whiteman, 20, is a University College London geography student, spending a year abroad in Singapore. She stresses that it should not be underestimated how much a different climate can affect day-to-day life, and that as much admin as possible should be taken care of before getting on the plane. Marcus Baird, 20, a student from the same university and currently spending a term in Adelaide, Australia, adds to this with advice on the importance of researching your accommodation thoroughly beforehand. Prices can vary wildly, and it can be hard to gauge the best locations from online maps alone. Also important is to come prepared for any mishaps, which means having important documents to hand, as well as key phrases memorised if you don't speak the language. However prepared you are, studying abroad is not for everyone, and I'm yet to discover whether or not it will suit me. I know plenty of people who regret not applying, and almost nobody who has the same reservations about their decision to go. So, all things considered, I would encourage those teetering on the edge to give it serious thought before dismissing the idea altogether.
1.19
Hi! We're here today taking a closer look at the idea of communities of practice. Groups of people who come together to share their experiences and their expertise and learn from each other. Here in front of us on the beach are a group of young people, mostly male, aged between about 15 and 25. And they're all practicing some tricking moves. Allie, can you quickly tell us what tricking is?
Yes, it's a kind of combination of acrobatics and martial arts. The kids here do it on the beach all year round. They use these big lorry tyres buried in the sand as a trampoline, and they spend hours and hours jumping off the tyres and doing tricks off them. They watch each other and discuss the moves and practice over and over. That's how they learn.
So, how long would you say these young people have been tricking?
There's no way of telling, really. The original group members may have been doing it for years, while the younger ones might have been taught more recently. Some of these really young ones could just have joined the group. See the guy in the white t-shirt? He must have been doing it for a couple of years, I'd say.
Yes, he's really good. He can do some amazing things.
The younger kids very often film the acrobatics on their mobiles.
Yes, I saw them recording one trick on their smartphones the other day. Why do they do that? I thought it must be so they could learn from the more experienced members of the group.
Well, yes, they could well be doing it so they can watch the clips afterwards and talk about the techniques. But the guy in the white t-shirt may watch the film later too. If he does, it will certainly be to help him improve his technique.
And how do you think he learnt that move to start with? I mean, he can't have learned it by himself.
Who knows? He could have been part of another group and moved on to form his own tricking gang, or he may have learnt the first tricks online.
So there's a whole online community also.
Yes, that's right. The clips they're filming on their phones, most likely they post them straight to a YouTube channel. There's a huge global community out there sharing and learning together. That's an important part of the community of practice too, sharing online as well as face-to-face. A lot of trickers learn their moves online.
Wow, that must be so inspiring.
Yeah, I think it is. But the most motivating thing is just getting it right. Look, watch him.
Wow, he can't be doing that. That's amazing!
1.20 Dialogue 1.
I bought a desk for my study from this online retailer. You know, it was pretty reasonable. Not super cheap, but not that bad. And they delivered it, and it was flat pack, so I had to put it together myself.
Flat pack furniture is beyond me. I don't buy it anymore because I'm just useless at putting it together.
Yeah, well, I was pretty useless that day too. So I got the instructions out, and it was like this list of letters and numbers which were supposed to correspond to the pieces, but I found the whole thing very vague and actually more confusing than helpful. The physical pieces seemed to bear almost no resemblance to what was on the paper. Anyway, I tried to keep my composure, and I kind of managed to work out what it was they meant. I just used plain common sense.
Well done, you. I find it impossible to get to grips with those kind of manuals. They're always confusing, or there's not enough information, or they're missing a page. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah, and then I tried to improvise. I managed to find an Allen key which they didn't provide, so I had to use my initiative there. Anyway, I finally started to build this thing, got halfway through it, and got to the point where putting the whole thing together proved impossible without an extra pair of hands.
What a nightmare! I would have given up there and then.
Anyway, I was going to throw in the towel. Then I thought, I'm not going to let this defeat me. So I went for a quick walk round the block to clear my head, you know. And I happened to meet a neighbour and asked him for help.
Dialogue 2.
Have you ever consulted an online video for help with fixing something? You know, one of those how-to videos. I'm a bit wary of them. I'm not sure I trust the advice fully.
Yeah, I have used them. When I've had issues with software, anything like that, I go on these specialist sites or forums. They've got detailed advice and videos there. Like the other day, I had a problem installing an update for my computer and I went online immediately and this guy sorted out the whole problem for me in no time.
So it's professionals sponsored by tech companies. Otherwise, it seems odd to me.
Not always. It's often ordinary people who've had similar problems or people who are technical geniuses and want to share their expertise. First you type in your problem and then loads of videos pop up with people who are a lot more technical than you or me. What they say is really easy to follow because they're like tutorials that show you how to fix problems step by step. You'd think that the videos posted by experts might be too complicated or too difficult for the average person to follow, but they're not.
Right. And I guess it doesn't really matter if the videos are a bit amateurish. I mean, they're free, and you can always re-watch them if you don't get it the first time. When real experts choose to share their knowledge with everyone for free, it's really helpful.
Absolutely. It's good to know help is just a few clicks away.
Dialogue 3.
We're having some people over on Thursday evening, if you want to join us. Nothing fancy, but you'd be welcome.
Can't do Thursday, I'm afraid. Dog training classes.
Dog training? I thought you were an expert.
Well, I've had dogs for most of my life, and I always thought that I could train them myself, that I didn't need any help.
Yes, I mean, you've had loads of experience.
Well, right, but Booster is proving to be a right handful, more than I can handle. I mean, I've had problematic dogs before that would try to run away or whatever, but I was never worried they would try and attack someone. To be frank, Booster is so aggressive it scares me, especially when he meets people he doesn't know. It's a nightmare just going for a walk with him. He's totally unpredictable.
And if you can't pull him into line, that's saying something.
Well, I've tried everything, but to no avail. I've had to swallow my pride and start with a dog trainer. Not individual lessons, mind you. I was advised to enrol in a class with other dogs and their owners. And actually, it's proved very reassuring to be with others who share the same concerns as you. They all have problem dogs, so we're all in the same boat, if you know what I mean.
Well, I do, yes. And I guess if you had individual lessons, I mean, he might be obedient in class, but when you get down the park, he might start misbehaving again. This way he gets acclimatised to other people and other dogs.
Exactly. The whole experience has been very positive so far. As I said, it's good to feel part of a group who are going through the same experiences as you, to feel an affinity with them. Together, you can learn better, I think.
Well, I'm sure Booster would agree.
Yes, he probably would.
1.21
1.
Be in the same boat.
2.
Share their expertise.
3.
Clear my head.
4.
Use your initiative.
5.
Keep your composure.
6.
Feel an affinity with.
7.
Use common sense.
8.
Share the same concerns.
1.22
There's no doubt that homeschooling is a growing trend, and there are a lot of strong opinions about it. We talked to several people to get their views on the topic. First, we spoke to Dawn, a secondary school teacher who has studied the phenomenon in her area. So, Dawn, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I really don't think it's a practical solution for a lot of families. Take a family where both parents are working and can't afford to pay for expensive private tutors. They don't have time to dedicate to schooling their children. So for them, school is the only option. And you know, there are a lot of things that schools offer that homeschooling can't. A case in point is the question of socialisation. You know, kids getting to spend time with other kids. It's a really important aspect of school, and it often gets undervalued.
Thank you, Dawn.
My pleasure.
We also asked a homeschooler, 16-year-old Scott, what he thought about people who said that homeschooled kids don't learn how to socialise as much as other kids.
I'm sorry, but I think they're wrong. In my case, I spend a lot of time with other homeschooled kids doing projects together at each other's houses. Kids who go to school, OK, they're together in class for hours every day, but are they socialising? No. Look at my cousin Rob. He's at school from 8:30 till 4. When he gets home, he has to do his homework. That takes another couple of hours, and so he's hardly got any time to see his friends or to dedicate to the things he's really interested in.
And what are the things you're interested in? Can you give us an example?
Sure. One of the most notable examples I can think of was when I was 12. I wanted to build my own computer. I became completely obsessed with it and spent all day, every day, just finding out stuff. For instance, getting the right parts and the best prices and learning to put it all together. I was very proud of the final product, and I think it's a prime example of the kind of thing you have time to do when you're homeschooled. If I'd been going to school, well, I guess I'd have given up. There just wouldn't have been enough time to pursue the project.
Thanks for speaking to us, Scott. Well, that's been our report on homeschooling. On our next edition, we'll be talking about
1.23 Dialogue 1.
Anne! Haven't seen you for ages.
I've been on back-to-back business trips for the last few months, just drawing breath now.
Well, you've got my sympathies. I suppose it all just merges into one huge airport, and you only know where you are by looking at the name of the airport when you get off the plane. Just dull, rather you than me.
Well, I find it really exhilarating. I'm in international education, so I work with schools in different countries. It arouses all my do-gooding instincts. I feel I really am making a difference to people's lives and helping them achieve to the very best of their abilities.
That must be rewarding.
It's incredibly rewarding, and I'd never get that from an office job at home. And over the years, I've established very close relationships with people from all walks of life all over the world, not to mention the huge variety of places I've seen. No, traveling as I do is amazing. When I think how all these people and places have enriched my life, I feel very fortunate.
Yes, I can see that it suits you, but I think I'll keep travel for my holidays.
Dialogue 2.
Have you thought about your gap year?
Yes, I'm seriously considering going to North and South America and travelling. These places will be so different culturally to what I can experience here, and I think I can learn from their problems.
That's a huge area you're talking about. It's like saying you can learn from Europe's problems, when Europe is actually made up of a multitude of individual countries, each with their own distinct problems.
Well, actually, a number of the issues you can see in Europe have their equivalents there. Look at migration and ethnic population mix, for example. I don't think the roots of these problems can be essentially too different, and it doesn't hurt to expose oneself to different cultures and just to admire some of the most amazing natural phenomena in the world. When else am I going to see the Grand Canyon or go up the Amazon into the rainforest?
Aha, that's what's really behind it. You just want to be a tourist. Don't you think that if all these issues exist here on your own doorstep, it's more worthwhile to stay and work for a local NGO? After all, you're not going to get that chance again either.
Dialogue 3.
So I hear that your family will be moving on again soon. How do you feel about that? You must find it disruptive.
Well, it's not unexpected. My mum's company relocates her every 3 or 4 years. The company guidelines actually recommend that children go to boarding school for exactly that reason, not to disrupt their lives. I count myself lucky, though, that my parents have kept me with them.
I bet. Surely modern education systems can cope well enough nowadays with pupils changing schools every now and again.
What annoys me most is that people who don't move around the world as we do always make a big thing about moving schools being detrimental to one's education and interfering with the ability to form lasting relationships. But, well, there's more than one way of being educated, and I've yet to hear any hard evidence of travel affecting one's connection with other people.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But like I say, in this day and age, I don't see why it should be such a big deal. Plenty would probably argue that it's even a good thing getting to meet new people and seeing new things. Anyway, I'm more interested to know which of the places you've been to has impressed you the most.
Oh, everywhere has been pretty good. The place before this was Botswana, which was really interesting. I had a great time at school there. I loved the outdoors too, so that was good. From the Kalahari Desert to the Okavango swamps. Awesome!
1.24
1.
Fruit and vegetables. Apricots. Beetroots. Leeks. capers. Okra.
2,
Herbs and spices. Basil. Paprika. Parsley. Saffron. Nutmeg. Coriander.
3,
Fish and seafood. Clams. Cod. Mackerel. Shellfish. Lobsters. Oysters.
4,
Meat. Goose. Veal. Venison. Kidneys. Liver.
5,
Smells, flavours and textures. Slimy. Glutinous. Perfumed. Smoked. Chewy.
1.25.
1,
The chinking noise when I stack glasses in the dishwasher.
2,
Cafes that are really buzzy.
3,
The crunchy sound that crisps and biscuits make.
4,
The constant hum of traffic in the street.
5,
The sound of a balloon popping when pricked with a pin.
6,
The sound of sausages sizzling in a pan.
7,
Knives and forks clinking in the school canteen.
1.26.
1,
Top quality food and service. Fine dining.
2,
Become furious. Have a fit.
3,
Stiff material. Starched tablecloth.
4,
Thing that you dislike intensely. Pet hate.
5,
Things you can't eat. Dietary requirements.
6,
A soft, quiet way. Hushed tones.
1.27.
1,
A knob of butter.
2,
A drop of lemon juice.
3,
A clove of garlic.
4,
A lump of cheese.
5,
A pinch of salt.
6,
A sip of water.
7,
A spoonful of honey.
8,
A sprig of parsley.
9,
A stick of celery.
1.28. Can you eat yourself happy? It seems that food is an unavoidable topic of conversation these days. Whether you're browsing online, flicking through a magazine, zoning out in front of the TV, or chatting away to friends, someone will almost certainly be discussing food in one form or another. Favourite talking points include whether we are over or underweight because of the type of food we eat, whether we eat too much junk and processed food, whether we ought to eat meat or not, and exactly which superfood or diet is going to save our lives and give us the body we want. These are all burning questions for those of us fortunate enough to be able to choose what we eat. And while diet-related issues such as obesity are undoubtedly serious and potentially life-threatening, the effects of eating are not only physical. Recent research has been looking at how food affects our moods as well as our bodies. First and foremost, flavour is a powerful conductor of memories and emotions. Strawberries may evoke a very special summer. A birthday cake may conjure a childlike wonder. In Proust's Remembrance of Things Past, for example, the narrator depicts the powerful joy that a tea-soaked Madeleine awakes in him when he is dispirited after a dreary day with the prospect of a depressing morrow. It isn't so much that the sweet cake tastes lovely, but that it transports him to his innocent youth, when his aunt in the country would feed him the very same treat on Sunday mornings. But the single most influential sense in flavour appreciation is the sense of smell. Unlike the other senses, smell is processed in a part of the brain that deals with strong emotional responses and memory. A particular smell can trigger both a memory of the time we first experienced it and a repetition of the feelings we had then. So, for each of us, particular memories and feelings become associated with certain smells. These are just some of the many ways in which food can make us happy. Of course, it does help if these foods are toothsome, delectable, or in other words, delicious. Tasty food is one of the most universal routes to pleasure, reads an academic paper by the Oxford psychiatrist Morton Kringleback on our understanding so far of the neuroscience of happiness. This is why eating forms the basis of much scientific experimentation into the mechanics behind that elusive, warm, fuzzy sense of well-being. Pleasure is widely viewed as an essential component of happiness. Food excites the reward system in the brain, stimulating desire and anticipation, and when we eat something we enjoy, it releases hormones which produce the sensation of pleasure. However, such pleasures are fleeting, and overconsumption of tasty but unhealthy foods may interfere with your reward system, encouraging uncontrollable cravings and binges. You may also feel guilty. Psychologist Andrew Smith of Cardiff University suspects that our attitudes and beliefs about these foods cause us to feel low after consuming them. In a study he carried out, one group were given crisps and chocolate, foods we tend to consider unhealthy and only to be consumed secretly or as special treats, for their tea-time snack over the course of 10 days, while another group ate fruit. The results associated chocolate with greater depression, and those who ate chocolate and crisps reported greater cognitive difficulties and fatigue, whereas the fruit group had lower anxiety, depression, and distress. Alongside pleasure, another contributor to happiness and well-being is a sense of meaningfulness, and this is where cooking, as opposed to eating food, comes in. Cooking is in fact an established occupational therapy for depression. According to Mark Salter, a consultant psychiatrist in Hackney, London, the preparing, sharing and consuming of food is so precious, he says, because it lies slap at the heart of what it means to be human, to love, to relate, to plan, to feed, to enjoy and to share. It isn't only a pleasure, Salter says, but a life skill. It's elemental, caring for yourself and others. When choosing ingredients, combining flavours and creating a dish, you are imagining the health-giving or pleasurable impact it will have on those who will consume it. Cooking takes the focus away from yourself. Combine the power of cooking to make us happy with the tendency for home-cooked food to be healthier, and you have a nutritional and psychological jackpot. Apart from being healthy, eating home-prepared food is also followed by more intense positive emotions and less anxiety than consuming food away from home. If you go one step further and grow some food of your own, then you do even better. What with the established positive health effects of being active rather than sedentary, being outside and working with nature rather than cooped up inside all day, together with the satisfaction of growing food and the deliciousness of freshly harvested produce, the happy-making potential of eating is enormous. 1.29
I'm sure a lot of you love eating all those unusual dishes that form part of any trip to an exotic location. For example, you can try snake in China, or you can gobble up insects like fried beetles in Thailand or grasshoppers in Mexico. But did you know that some of these strange foods can actually be dangerous for you? For example, Jamaica's national fruit, the ackee, has to be fully ripe before you eat it, and its black seeds are toxic and bad for the blood, so are perhaps best avoided altogether. Likewise, in Brazil, many people like cassava, also known as tapioca. But when you eat this root vegetable, make sure to peel and cook it thoroughly. Raw, it is poisonous. You can die. And one of the creepiest dangerous foods is sanakji from Korea. In case you're wondering, this is raw baby octopus. The thing is alive even when you chop off its tentacles. They carry on moving and can even stick to your mouth and throat so that you choke. So if you must eat this, make sure to chew before swallowing. But did you know that you don't need to travel to encounter potentially dangerous foods? For example, you might not think twice about reaching for a few nuts when someone hands out a bowl of cashews. But did you know that raw cashews, the ones you buy in the shops, are not raw but have been steamed to have a poisonous chemical taken out, are really bad for your stomach? So, don't eat cashews unless you're absolutely sure of the source. Yes, that innocent-looking nut can be fatal. You have been warned.
1.30 Speaker 1
I had never tried oysters before, but I was on vacation on the east coast of the US, and they're everywhere. You can even pick them up at street stalls. Anyway, I plucked up the courage and took my first taste, and actually, I quite liked it. Well, to tell the truth, it was a bit bland. So I tried another, but this time with Tabasco sauce to give it a bit more kick. It certainly worked, but within minutes, I started feeling really awful. I mean, really ill. My mouth felt as if it was on fire, but it wasn't just the hot sauce. I think those oysters were probably off or old. Anyway, it was enough to put me off oysters forever. And I'll certainly think twice before eating street food again.
Speaker 2
I'm Mexican, so, I was brought up on tacos. Now I'm living in the UK, and it's hard to find them, at least decent ones. But the other day, a friend recommended this takeaway place. I had a feeling ahead of time that it wouldn't be any good, but they still managed to disappoint. The tacos were downright unpleasant. The corn tortillas weren't fresh, and the salsa was all sweet and sticky like tomato ketchup, and worst of all, it wasn't spicy at all. Plus, the meat seemed to be old. It was all stringy and tasted weird. I picked at them for a while, but they were so bad I couldn't finish them. It made me realize how difficult it is to recreate the true flavors of our cuisine abroad. It's down to the scarcity of authentic ingredients, I guess. This was more like Tex-Mex cuisine, really. It was pretty painful when the bill came and I had to pay up. I should have known better.
Speaker 3
I have rather conventional tastes, I suppose. I'm not ashamed to admit that burgers are my favourite takeaway food, and I'm not fussy about where I go either. I'll eat any kind of burger. But, it costs a fortune to dine out all the time, so I thought I'd have a go at preparing some burgers for me and my mates at home. Well, it was an absolute disaster. You'd think it would be a fairly simple thing, but I managed to mess it up completely. The burgers were tough, the onions burnt, and the bread rolls were stale, so we ended up having to throw the whole lot out. I was really disappointed. I think I'll go back to eating out in future.
Speaker 4.
They say it's going out of fashion, but I still love fish and chips. It's a uniquely British dining experience. There's nothing like it when you can't be bothered to cook and you want something quick. Trouble is, some places are good, the fish is tasty and the chips are crispy, but in other places, everything is really greasy and soggy. The other day, I went to my local chippy to get a takeaway, and I found that the place had changed hands. I ordered my usual anyway, but it just wasn't the same. I think they must have used old oil or something because everything was really stodgy and tasted horrible. It's disappointing when you're imagining one taste and you get another one, which is nowhere near as nice. But I guess even the best places end up going downhill sometimes.
Speaker 5.
There's this really nice stall where we go to get crepes, but it's so popular, you usually have to line up right around the corner. Even so, people carry on going. I regularly go there with my friends. We really like the sweet ones with cream, melted chocolate, banana, and so on. Anyway, trouble is, I'm on this diet now, so I'm cutting back on sugar, and I wanted a savory one with just low-fat cheese and fresh spinach. And I asked for mine to be made without butter, and the guy who makes them went nuts and was really rude about it. He said he couldn't do it with that number of people waiting. I was shocked. It wasn't so much to ask, especially as we're always there.
1.31.
1.
Prepared with a lot of oil. Greasy.
2.
Containing tough fibers, especially meat. Stringy.
3.
Unpleasantly heavy. Stodgy.
4.
Wet and soft. Soggy.
5.
Tasting of salt, not sweet. Savoury.
6.
Tasteless. Bland.
7.
Hard and dry on the outside. Crispy.
8.
Bad or not fresh. Off.
1.32. Extract 1.
So, Todd, Sarah informs me that you're in the football team.
Yes, that's right, I am.
Well, actually, he's the captain, Dad.
Is that so? And I gather you also play rugby.
Well, that's not quite correct, I'm afraid. It's actually American football.
American football?
Yes, and last weekend they beat a visiting American team. Didn't you, Todd?
You don't say. Well, I always like to see the Americans get beaten, especially in one of their own silly sports.
Extract 2.
Will you have a little more meat, Todd?
Thank you for the offer, Mrs. Cooper, but I'm already full.
Oh, go on. Just a little.
That's very kind of you, but I couldn't possibly eat another bite. It was absolutely delicious, though. We hardly ever sit down together to a roast beef dinner, and certainly not as good as this.
Well, I'm very glad you've enjoyed it, Todd. Although, to be completely accurate, this is actually roast pork.
Extract 3.
Sarah mentioned that you're starting university next year.
Well, yes, sort of, though not exactly university.
As a matter of fact, he's going to theatre school.
Oh, really? Theatre school?
Yes, RADA, actually. The Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, you know, in London.
Wow, I'm impressed. Good for you. You know, I was quite the actress in my day.
Don't believe a word she says, Todd. She was in one school production and she fell off the stage.
1.33. Speaker 1.
When I left college, I got an office job and now I'm pretty much sitting at a desk all day. So I joined a local gym and began to feel much fitter, but I started to get bored of the routine. Then I heard about the Free Swimming Society that encourages people to get back to the joy of swimming under an open sky, as they say. Well, I grew up in a village and as kids we used to swim in the local river, so I decided to join. And now I'm a regular wild swimmer. Swimming is fantastic exercise, but the best thing is connecting with nature again. It makes you feel so energised and joyful.
Speaker 2.
I've always been a sporty person and I'm quite attracted to extreme sports. I'd done traditional parachute jumping, but I felt I wanted to push myself and try something that was potentially more risky. So I decided to move on to skydiving. That's when you go into freefall before opening the parachute. The first time was probably the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had. We went up to 10,000 feet before the instructor opened the plane door, but then it felt so good in freefall. I enjoyed it so much I started training for my licence. It's expensive, but it's worth every penny for the sheer exhilaration. It's the ultimate high. Everyone should try it.
Speaker 3.
When I was growing up, girls weren't expected to play football, but I used to kick a ball around with my brothers and I fell in love with the game. They inspired me to join the school team. Being a young female footballer was tough and I got lots of sarcastic comments from the boys. It was the 2012 Olympic Games in London that really altered people's preconceptions about women's football. Before, I never told people I was a footballer. Now, I love saying it. Playing football professionally involves sacrifice, but you can't imagine how great you feel when you've played really well and you win. I'd encourage more girls to believe football is something for them to enjoy.
Speaker 4.
I decided to take up running to get fit, and I enjoyed it. But if you're just running for the sake of it, it's easy to get discouraged and give up. I felt having a goal to work towards would help, so I decided I would run the London Marathon and fundraise for charity. I got a charity place for a children's organisation, and that encouraged me to continue my training, even when the weather was awful. On race day, you're part of a team, and there's a great sense of comradeship. What's truly rewarding when you run for charity is knowing you're helping real people and changing lives. Now, I'm training for my 4th marathon.
Speaker 5.
When I was 16, I developed back problems, which meant I couldn't take part in sports or physical activities at school, and I started to feel quite depressed. The physiotherapist recommended taking up yoga classes to help strengthen my back muscles. With a good teacher, yoga is a safe way to increase physical activity, and doing it regularly helps you get in tune with your body and develop your physical strength. But it doesn't just boost your physical well-being. When I started, I just wanted to get stronger, but actually, it's helped me to learn more about myself and my feelings, and as a result, I've achieved a much more positive outlook on life. It changed my life.
2.1.
1.
Idea or notion. Brainchild.
2.
Faithful followers. Fan base.
3.
Built to prevent noise getting in. Soundproof.
4.
Designed and made specially. Purpose-built.
5.
Popular or common. Mainstream.
6.
Negative response. Backlash.
2.2.
Success.
Come into prominence. Herald the arrival of something. Remain in the ascendancy. The predominant choice. Enjoy a resurgence.
Failure.
A commercial flop. Fall by the wayside. Start to decline. Give way to something. The downturn in something.
2.3.
Ascendant. Ascendancy. Aware. Awareness. Popular. Popularity. Portable. Portability. Predominant. Predominance. Prominent. Prominence. Resurgent. Resurgence.
2.4.
Abundant. Abundance. Affluent. Affluence. Authentic. Authenticity. Careless. Carelessness. Consistent. Consistency. Diligent. Diligence. Effective. Effectiveness. Private. Privacy. Reluctant. Reluctance. Simple. Simplicity.
2.5.
The role of technology in sport.
Text A. If you've ever seen old images of a sporting event, for example a tennis match from the 1920s, you've probably noticed how different the game is from its modern counterpart. The gear and outfits look impossibly old-fashioned. Over the past century, technology has changed the entire face of sport, providing ever better gear made with superior materials. As in other fields, the use of advanced technology in sport can be justified if it leads to improved performance. But it is important to distinguish between legitimate improvements and ones that significantly advantage some athletes over others. Every time the Summer Olympics comes around, so does the debate about where to draw the line. Nevertheless, we have to accept that the technology companies are part of the manifestation of human ingenuity in sport, and that their importance will increase. Despite the ongoing debate, it is certain that athletes will continue to utilise advances in sports technology to enhance and better their performance. Text B. The use of technology in sport isn't new. There has been a steady evolution of even seemingly mundane sports equipment for decades. You need only look at the huge strides made in shoe technology, with better, lighter materials helping to improve performance. It can be argued that these advances have helped to justify the expense of time and money that we invest in sport. Improvements in safety standards have helped to prevent injuries among athletes and enabled them to compete to an older age. Advances in technology can enhance spectator interest and excitement, as well as encouraging more people to participate in formerly exclusive sporting activities. In extreme cases, however, some players fear that introducing new technology might actually alter the ideal body type for a sport. We must understand how a particular technology affects performance. There's a fine balance between simply enhancing an athlete's fitness and technique and completely eliminating the human factor in competition. Text C. Technological innovation is now an integral part of sport at the highest level. And competition isn't just about who is fastest, but whose kit is smartest. Given how much money rides on success today, it's little wonder that athletes are keen to capitalise on technological advances to help them win. It seems that the old saying, "It's not whether you win or lose," has been replaced by, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing." But when people talk about the prowess of athletes in sports such as tennis, golf, track and field, it's impossible to ignore the part played by technology. Current-day records set with the benefit of these advances cannot be held in such esteem as those of the past. It's not surprising that poorer countries don't compete in sports involving a lot of technology. The investment required is phenomenal. Surely it's not acceptable that competition at the highest level is now only affordable to the elite due to the high cost of equipment. Text D. Technological advances in sporting equipment and better information about nutrition, training and psychology have added significantly to athletic performance. Professional athletes now have access to far better equipment than ever before, and this has undoubtedly played a role in the achievement of these athletes in their respective fields. Yet it doesn't negate or fully explain their accomplishments, even though composite tennis rackets, ultralight running shoes and fiberglass poles have enabled them to perform better than ever before. No competitive professional would think of returning to the wooden tennis racket or bamboo pole. Today, the alternatives are just that much better. Sports, like all human enterprises, evolve over time. Technology will no doubt continue to fuel improvements that help push the limits of athletic ability still further. But records in future will be broken less frequently, and incremental gains will be tiny, as technological innovation helps to optimize the performance of all, and athletes begin to approach their physical limits.
2.6 Dialogue 1.
So the other day, I got my new bank card through the mail, and it's one of those contactless ones. You just place it on the handset. You don't have to input your PIN number or anything. The only thing is, the maximum transaction is £20, which is a bit of a hassle.
Well, for little stuff, like if you're in a rush and just grabbing a coffee or whatever, it's great. And people want that nowadays. But what happens if somebody nicks your card? That'd bother me.
It's bizarre how things have changed over time. Like, you used to swipe your card and then sign to pay for something, and then we had chip and PIN, and now we've got to the point where we just tap our cards. Feels like I barely have time to get used to one technology before the next one is introduced.
Even chip and PIN worried me because I thought if somebody was looking over my shoulder, they could see my number. I think it's getting less safe, and wanting everything so fast means we're getting lazy, just like with the cards.
We're certainly living in a world where we want everything instantly. It's like those travel cards that you can top up on the go. That's what these cards are about, being quick and convenient.
But that means compromising sometimes, and that's not always a good trade-off.
Dialogue 2.
I'm probably the only person I know who's not into social media. I miss real conversations face to face, don't you? We seem to have lost the habit.
I agree. But then when you are face to face, it's sometimes no better. It drives me potty the way you see some people flick through Facebook on their phones while other people are trying to engage them in conversation. It seems downright rude to me.
I guess it's okay for people who live far away from each other so they can keep in touch. But when you're right there, well, I just don't get it. And liking something is so easy. People like things they haven't even read. It requires so little attention and commitment, and the words have no depth. I think it cheapens human contact. Honestly. And just don't get me started on texting.
Personally, I want to erase myself from all this social media, but that's actually a real pain in the neck to do. I mean, it's surprisingly difficult to disappear completely from a social network once you're registered.
I hear there's an app that permanently deletes you from all that stuff and leaves no trace, as if your Facebook profile had never existed.
Oh, really? Sounds like just what I need.
Dialogue 3.
Books are unique, aren't they? Unwinding with a good book always cheers me up. There's no finer feeling, you know? Really savoring a book and not caring about anything else. I really think they're objects of desire.
And you don't think the same joy can be got from an e-reader? I mean, the act of reading is the same. Maybe they're not as romantic, but they are much more practical. Can you imagine going on holiday with all those piles of books again when you can have them all on one device?
I'm not fussed about the weight, to be honest. And when you're finished, you can give them to your friends. It enriches the whole experience to be able to share.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't go anywhere without my e-reader now. It's positively addictive and I can read it anywhere. And when I want a new book, I can download it right there and then and start reading it immediately, which means I am actually reading more now. It's amazing. You should try it for yourself.
Oh, they just don't appeal to me. Just compare reading the printed page with that screen glaring at you all the time. We have too many screens anyway. We don't need another one.
Now you're just being old-fashioned.
2.7.
1.
Pass a card through an electronic reader. Swipe.
2.
Accept something undesirable because it's easy. Compromise.
3.
Make less valuable or meaningful. Cheapen.
4.
Read quickly. Flick through.
5.
Enjoy in a relaxed way. Savour.
6.
Steal. Nick.
7.
Shine brightly. Glare.
8.
Improve the quality. Enrich.
2.8.
Hello again. This week on Tech Report, Sarah and Lyndon are going to be talking about two relatively new tech solutions. Sarah, let's start with you.
Hi, Steph. Well, last weekend, me and some friends went to a new Asian restaurant that had these great touchscreen menus.
There's nothing new in that, is there? I mean, I've seen plenty of menus on tablets in lots of restaurants in town.
Well, yes, you're right, of course, but this was different. They were actually part of the table. We used them to choose and order our meal, and they told us how long it'd be before we had the dishes on the table.
I worry about the touch screens being in contact with food. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
You've got a point, though they seemed pretty well protected to me, and they made the whole ordering process so much quicker. I mean, that can't be bad, can it? I hate having to wait in restaurants, don't you?
Absolutely. I'm totally with you on that. I hate waiting too. Maybe they're not such a bad idea after all. Lyndon, what about you? What tech wonders have you seen this week?
Well, again, the basic concept is nothing new. Virtual mirrors have been part of online clothes shopping for some time now, but this was the first time I'd seen one in a real-life shop.
So, what's the difference?
Well, the screen is much bigger, just like a normal mirror. You stand in front of it and you see the whole length of your body. Then you choose the clothes you want from a menu on the screen, and the mirror automatically shows you what they'd look like on you.
I can see the point if you're shopping online, but when you're actually in the shop, you can just use the changing rooms, can't you?
I'm sorry, I really don't agree with you here. I think they can be really useful. You can look through the fashions much more quickly than if you were looking through the rails, and you can combine them with shoes and accessories that you might have at home. It gives you a much better idea.
Do you think we're going to see virtual mirrors in high street fashion stores anytime soon? I can't see it happening myself.
I agree, it's unlikely to work in busy chain stores, but in smaller, more exclusive boutiques, I think it'll be a hit.
I'm afraid I'm not so sure. I definitely prefer the menus.
I've got to agree with you. They're more fun.
That's all we have time for this week, but we'll be back next week with a whole new episode of Tech Report. And if you like the show, why not consider liking us on Facebook or telling a friend? Bye for now.
(2.9) Dialogue 1.
Don't let me forget to do my online check-in before I leave tomorrow.
Well, leave plenty of time. I always find those web pages a nightmare to navigate, and it takes me ages. Click here, fill here, read this regulation, tick the box down there. I get so worried as well about getting something wrong.
It's not easy, is it? They tend to put way too much information on any one page, and there's all this other stuff being offered too. Pages and pages of car hire, hotels for rent, travel insurance. It's just an attempt at ripping you off.
Oh, I'm not so sure. While it is probably another form of income for the airline, personally I never travel without insurance. It's best to be safe than sorry, I always say. And it can be a hassle to try and sort it out with another company on another website. I reckon plenty of people find the car hire and accommodation services pretty handy too.
Well, I think it's just a scam. And it just adds to the pain of the whole experience.
Dialogue 2.
Have you tried that music website yet I was talking about? It's awesome. They've got so much stuff on there and you can listen to a new album within seconds.
No, I must admit I haven't. I don't see the big deal, to be honest.
That's because you haven't tried it. Really, I'm discovering new bands all the time. You can read their bios, access their whole discographies. But what's got me hooked is this feature which points you in the direction of lots of bands similar to those that you like.
Call me a technophobe if you like, but I prefer something physical when I buy something, like a CD or a record. In fact, vinyl's making a big comeback. It has more soul and warmth than digital music. Plus, for me, it's more ritualistic. Going to the shop, choosing carefully, then going home and listening to it while studying the album art. It's all part of the music buying experience. Besides, you hear those stories about the bands never seeing any of the money, which really should be against the law.
Dialogue 3.
Remember I told you about that online course I'm doing? Well, it's not going well.
Really? Why? You were so looking forward to it a few weeks back. You wouldn't recommend it then?
No, I would. Don't get me wrong, I'm learning loads. I know the administration have their roles to fulfill and everybody else seems to be happy, but I've never done a course like this before, and the way things work just leave me all a bit confused. Even the home page is like a maze to me. I probably should have done a bit more research before I started.
It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll get easier. You've only just started after all. And besides, what other options do you have? You could write to administration for assistance, or contact one of the other students and ask them for some help, I suppose. I suspect they'll only give you the same advice as me, though. Dropping out's not a good option, as I'm sure you won't get your money back. I say just keep your head down and do the best you can.
2.10
1.
Compensated for something. Made up for something.
2.
Persevered. Pressed on.
3.
Defend somebody. Something. Stand up for somebody. Something.
4.
Employed. Taken on.
5.
Worked very hard. Slaved away.
6.
Successfully become involved in something. Break into something.
7.
Having too much work. Being snowed under.
8.
Telling somebody what to do. Ordering somebody around.
2.11
1.
Start at the bottom of a company. Get on the first rung of the ladder.
2,
Ruin an opportunity I have. Scupper my chances.
3,
Pretend you are happy. Put on a brave face.
4,
Make a fast and eager start in your career. Jumpstart your career.
5,
Be brave enough to do something. Have the guts to do something.
6,
Monitor somebody. Something. Keep tabs on somebody. Something.
7,
Get my first opportunity to work somewhere. Get my foot in the door.
8,
Start doing something successfully and without delay. Hit the ground running.
2.12.
1,
Make yourself indispensable.
2,
Work overtime.
3,
Have a permanent contract.
4,
Hands-on experience.
5,
Do menial tasks.
6,
Land a permanent job.
7,
Do an unpaid internship. Entry-level job. Gain experience.
8,
Cover expenses.
9,
Do a short-term placement. Be paid the minimum wage.
2.13.
1,
Make a profit. Make a loss. Make a mint. Make your target. Make ends meet.
2,
Get a rise. Get a pension. Get perks. Get a financial incentive.
3,
Work for a pittance. Work for peanuts. Work on commission. Work for nothing.
2.14. Starting out. Meet some of the winners of the Enterprise Awards, a scheme developed to recognise the entrepreneurial talent emerging from universities across the UK. A. Ross Kemp, ASAP Watercrafts.
The hardest bit was starting, honestly. My product was something that began as a project at university. Once I started, each step led to the next, with difficult decisions to make at each one. My biggest mistakes always came when I tried to do everything myself. I soon realised that I couldn't do everything without sustaining financial losses, and very often other people can do bits better than me. A challenge is knowing who to trust and where to gain feedback. I talk through decisions with lots of different people to gauge their opinions, but in the end, big choices, like whether to give away 50% of my business, come down to following my heart and gut instinct. I've got a poster above my desk which says, "Work hard and be nice to people." I try to live by this. My success has been simply through taking opportunities when they came my way, being tenacious and saying yes. I try to look for positives in everything, even when things are really tough. However, I would urge entrepreneurs to hold on to their day jobs as long as possible while building a new business. If you can continue your day job until the business you have founded generates enough cash to pay your wage, this is the best scenario.
B. Rowena Simmons, Black and White Boutique.
I studied art textiles at secondary school. After I finished, I had an assortment of embroidery threads, charms and other arts and crafts supplies left over. I enjoyed playing around with them and was curious to know if they could be made into something saleable. I decided to try my luck and posted images of my handcrafted bracelets on Facebook. Much to my surprise, my schoolmates enthused about them immediately and started asking where they could buy them. Having realised the potential of homemade items, my boyfriend and I set out to establish an online store. My intention wasn't to build a brand, nor was it to become as prosperous as we have. In fact, it was simply a passion I had for creating things, which ended up giving me a flying start to a career as an entrepreneur. Our initial investment amounted to £200, which went on purchasing 15 different products to sell on our website. The other jewellery we offered was all my handiwork. I remember receiving our first order for £21 from a customer in Spain shortly after our opening promotion, which made the whole thing thrilling. All of a sudden, I realised how straightforward it was to access international markets through the internet. I reckon patience is definitely the key. It is, however, worth noting that while there are many positives to owning and managing your own business, it isn't child's play, and it doesn't come without its restless nights and pressured days. You must be eager to develop your products and prepare for fluctuations in the revenue you receive. With a lot of effort and perseverance and a dose of good luck, you will eventually see a return, though.
C. Ry Morgan, Please Cycle exercise app.
I guess recruitment has been one of our biggest challenges. I was fresh out of university and still had a baby face and had only had experience as an intern when we started. I think trying to recruit exceptional talent in what is already a hyper-competitive space in terms of the tech industry has proven interesting and probably one of the bigger difficulties. Trying to bring in experienced individuals who are maybe a decade older than I was at the time has been quite a tricky task. It's one that's got better over time, but having never run a business before, it's been hard doing the interview process and actually sitting down and quizzing people to recruit really good talent. And it's about getting not just the right professional match, but the right personal match. So linking them in with your culture is sometimes more important than their competence. If there's a guy that's a little bit better in terms of his CV versus the girl that you have a great rapport with and who matches the company culture, I'd say go for the girl over the guy, because in the long term, rapport and fitting in with the culture are more important.
2.15 Hello, and welcome to Talking Business. Today, as part of our series on helping people get work, we're discussing job interviews with psychologist Jonathan Henson and company director Carol Johnson. Jonathan, you've made a study of interview techniques and what makes some people successful and others not. What would you say is the most important thing people should do to prepare for a job interview?
Well, thinking through your answers and doing plenty of research about the business and the position you're applying for go without saying. Ultimately, there's nothing more you can do about the direction the interview itself might take. I think cultivating self-assurance plays a very big role. This will help you act as if you're confident when answering questions, though clearly without going overboard or pretending you can do things you can't.
Carol, you must have interviewed countless potential employees. What is the first thing you look for when a prospective employee walks into the room?
Well, many things can affect one's perception of a person. Of course, you shouldn't be rude. I think that is pretty obvious. I know that some people say looking attractive is crucial because it gives you confidence. And I used to think appearance and how you dressed were all important. But I've come to think that attitude is the key. I'd say be enthusiastic. If you show keenness, an interviewer is more likely to take you on.
People often commit errors in job interviews through nerves. How do you both regard that?
It's important not to dwell on your mistakes, but learn from them. And the odd slip is not the end of the world. We're all human after all. That said, willingness to admit your missteps is very important and will be appreciated by the interviewer. And while confidence is important, avoid being self-aggrandizing or boastful.
I'm not so sure. I think mistakes are generally to be avoided, especially as even small mistakes can reveal a lack of seriousness. But it's also good to be aware of your limitations and weaknesses. and I'd have to agree that a lack of humility is a very negative characteristic.
Jonathan, you've helped many interviewees deal with the psychological challenges of an interview. How important do you think this is?
Well, I think it's important to keep things in proportion. Every interview is important, and it's natural to be nervous. Indeed, I think for most people, having no nerves is unrealistic, and striving to do so could even be potentially detrimental. On the other hand, if you tell yourself that this job is the most important thing in the world, and that it will be a tragedy if you don't get it, then that's only going to increase your stress and make things worse.
Carol, you must have some stories to tell about people you've interviewed. Are there any you can share with us, and how did you feel about them?
Well, once I was interviewing a young woman for an important promotion. She was a good candidate, and she showed great resourcefulness in her work. But she did this really off-putting thing. She mimicked my body language. You know, every time I crossed my legs, she crossed hers. When I raised my voice, she raised hers. It became so distracting that I had to pause the interview and tell her. Of course, she was quite embarrassed, but she managed to explain that she'd read that it was a good strategy for success in an interview. Part of me wanted to laugh, but I also appreciated her sincerity. After that, she was more natural and she landed the job. It shows that you can over-prepare.
Finally, what's the one piece of advice you both feel is vital for success in the interview situation?
Well, adaptability is certainly important. If you can't react and evolve to the questions and environment, that can make interviews very tricky. And this is actually related in some ways to authenticity, which I think is crucial. Of course, you need to be prepared, but don't go in having learnt your lines and try to fit them into every answer. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying what comes into your head. That's your voice after all.
Well, I think persistence is helpful. Halfway through the interview, some people become discouraged and think, "Oh, I'm doing really badly here, I've failed this." And your perception can be totally wrong. But yes, being yourself is vital. Say what you think, not what you've been told to say. An interviewer will always appreciate that honesty.
2.16.
1,
Willing. Willingness.
2,
Adaptable. Adaptability.
3,
Keen. Keenness.
4,
Resourceful. Resourcefulness.
5,
Self-assured. Self-assurance.
6,
Persistent. Persistence.
7,
Authentic. Authenticity.
8,
Sincere. Sincerity.
9,
Humble. Humility.
2.17.
Come in, come in. Was the journey okay? Make yourself at home.
Yes, it was good, thanks. I'm Monica Wilson.
Nice to meet you. My name is Janet Short. I'm just going to start by asking you a few questions about the kinds of jobs you're interested in doing, now and in the future.
OK, sounds good. And thanks for letting me come and talk to you today.
No problem. That's what we're here for. So, what initial ideas do you have?
Well, let me see. I've studied biology and I like animals a lot, so I might perhaps be interested in some work experience as a vet.
Do you see yourself as a vet? I mean, is that a career you'd like to follow?
I've never really thought about it before. Not quite like that anyway, but maybe yes. Why do you ask?
Well, if you like animals, it might be a good choice. But I should warn you that you have to study a lot. You need to be really committed.
It'd tell you the truth, I'm not quite sure yet. I just thought that if I got some holiday work in a local vet, I could see what it's like for myself.
Yes, well, then that could be an option if there is a vet nearby who would be interested in taking you on. Are there any other jobs that appeal to you?
Actually, it's kind of a tough one.
Why's that?
Well, all I know is that I'm only 17 and I'm not quite sure which path I want to take. But my sister has kind of been an inspiration for me in this way.
In what way?
She kind of showed me that you don't necessarily have to do a lot of schoolwork to get a good job. She started out as a chef's apprentice and is now quite a well-known chef. I guess it's the opposite to the vet option because there's hardly any studying involved.
But you don't want to do exactly the same thing as her, do you?
Well, I don't necessarily see why not. Or at least something similar to what she's done, where you don't have to study too much. That appeals to me as well.
So, something like...
That's an interesting question. Perhaps become a hairdresser or something like that?
Okay, but there's not much room for promotion there.
Well, it depends on what you mean by promotion. I mean, what about if I opened my own salon?
Yes, good point. But I think...
2.18.
So, Rob, do we make a good team?
Well, Marcia, according to this test, I'm what they call a doer, while you're a thinker. Looking at these different attributes, I agree with the result to some extent. What do you think?
I definitely prefer to sit and listen rather than say much in meetings. That's there. And I don't like being the centre of attention, so that's correct. I did think that was more to do with being introverted rather than my being a thinker. But hey, I'm no expert. And do I tend to reflect on ideas rather than take action? I guess so.
I'd agree. When we work together, you're prone to being rather quiet, but you always have something valuable to say once everybody has put their ideas forward.
Maybe. I'm not so sure. Anyway, according to the next category, I'm a details person. The same as you. That means, let me see... yes. We both think realistically and prefer practical solutions to problems rather than thinking outside the box. And we both tend to focus on details rather than take a more holistic approach. That's not good. We need someone more resourceful to compensate for our lack of originality. An ideas person.
OK, but on the other hand, there's less likely to be conflict if we think along the same lines. Surely that's important in any team. The idea that we shouldn't get bogged down in details is an interesting one, though. Remember that Higgins account we had? We spent days and days persevering with solutions to those little issues that we completely failed to think about the bigger concerns. We fell well behind schedule and failed to meet the deadline, remember?
I remember. But I'm more inclined to take these types of tests with a pinch of salt. For example, do you think with your heart or your mind? You chose options A, B and D, which puts you very clearly in the mind category. That makes you a real tough cookie, willing to sell your own grandmother to seal a deal.
Yep, that's me, Marcia. Ruthless to the core. In truth, though, it's probably not far off the mark. I certainly think if someone isn't pulling their weight, something should be done about it. I believe in giving people time to adapt. And as you know, I'm a pretty patient kind of guy, but I was more than happy to see the back of Rogers when they decided not to renew his contract. I know he was a nice enough guy and all, but he didn't contribute much, did he? He was on a good salary too, by all accounts. Somebody upstairs made the right call there.
I had more of a problem with the fact that not only was he given so much time to adapt, but he was also sent on training courses to improve his performance, which, quite frankly, was both time and money wasted on him. Having said that, unlike some I could mention, he did have some interesting ideas. He's probably an ideas man. But, in all honesty, he wasn't really suited to this type of work, and I agree that the decision to let him go was a valid one.
Let's look at the final category. Planners versus improvisers. We've come out different again here. You're a planner, which fits in with the rest of your profile. You're meticulous. You don't like surprises, and you're dependable and very punctual. You have to agree with that.
I do, and I hate time wasting in meetings. But I also think too much time can be spent over-preparing, and I need deadlines to get me going, so the weighting of answers here seems to be leaning more towards the planner. I really don't think we can learn much from this final category, given that.
Yeah, and despite agreeing with you on some of the choices here, I'm an improviser, apparently. I'm at a loss to explain that. I'm incredibly punctual and also like to be well prepared. Oh well, it does seem, though, that overall we make a pretty good team. So, a pretty accurate test, despite a few unconvincing answers here and there. I did one last month on management styles, which was spot on and really helped me think about the decisions I make.
Maybe it's just me, Rob, but I have trouble accepting the results. Whether they are accurate or not, they generalise too much. I mean, how much can you really find out based on the answers to such a limited number of closed questions? Still, companies like to waste their money on them, and if they think they're useful, then who am I to say otherwise?
2.19.
1,
Rely on something. Somebody. Bank on something. Somebody.
2,
Destroyed by fire. Burned down.
3,
Investigate something. Somebody. Check on something. Somebody.
4,
Is accepted often wrongly as something. Somebody. Passes for something. Somebody.
5,
Adapt to something. Somebody. Fit in with something. Somebody.
6,
Leave. Head off.
7,
Communicate. Pass on.
8,
Charged too much money. Ripped off.
2.20.
Bear. Bearable. Daunt. Daunting. Flap. Flappy. Hand. Handy. Mind. Mindful. Relate. Relative. Respect. Respectable. Respectful. Sweat. Sweaty.
2.21.
Compete. Competitive. Decide. Decisive. Delight. Delightful. Divide. Divisible. Divisive. Dwindle. Dwindling. Force. Forceful. Grass. Grassy. Neighbour. Neighbouring. Offend. Offensive. Stone. Stony. Vary. Variable. Varying.
2.22.
1,
Accept a situation and not try to change it. Go with the flow.
2,
Good advice. Words of wisdom.
3,
It's loud and busy there. It's a jungle out there.
4,
Be useful. stand you in good stead.
5.
Something you do just to say you have done it. Tick box exercise.
6.
Enjoy a place by watching it. Soak up the local atmosphere.
2.23.
Namibia's Desert Express. Gavin Bell crosses Namibia on the Desert Express.
Waking up on my second day on the overnight Desert Express train from Windhoek, I see what at first I think is a mirage. A lone figure, shimmering in the heat, loping through the emptiness of the Namib Desert. In the distance, it is a dark spectre, diminishing as it jogs towards a towering sand dune. I rub my eyes. Is it an illusion, a trick of heat and dust, or the spirit of a long-dead San bushman returned to his hunting grounds? Neither. It's Cedric, a steward on the train and a keen footballer, who is running up the dune to make sure it is safe for passengers to trek up after him and view the Atlantic Ocean from its summit. Journeys on the Desert Express tend to be a bit out of the ordinary, and this one is no exception, starting with the train's wildly inaccurate name. Like most sightseeing trains, it is not actually an express service. On weekends, it trundles between the Namibian capital of Windhoek and its final destination, the old German colonial seaside resort of Swakopmund on the Atlantic Ocean, passing through the Namib and stopping along the way for game drives, dune excursions and lion feeding. On the face of it, the Namib is not the most inviting place to build a railway. The sand hunter-gatherers who once roamed its bone-dry gravel plains and shifting sands called it the land God made in anger. Then along came German soldiers and settlers who decided in 1897 it would be a good idea to lay a railway across it. In fact, they had little choice. At the time, there were no roads worthy of the name, and the only way of travelling through it was by ox wagon. The railway station in Windhoek, where we start our journey, is in fact a survivor from these past days. With 35 passengers on this trip, the public coaches are never crowded, and a troop of high-spirited but well-behaved Afrikaner children adds to the sense of fun. There is a bell that clangs to announce our departure, and soon we are out of Windhoek and chugging through low green hills. As if glad to be free of the city, the train slackens speed and proceeds at a pace an arthritic giraffe could match. A yellow butterfly flutters by, faster than us. An hour into the journey, we spot a troop of baboons preening each other on a hillock. Then we see a flock of vultures wheeling in the sky like scraps of burned paper above a carcass in the bush. Next there are springbok and kudu, then wildebeest and zebra grazing in a private game reserve. The highlight is a giraffe barely 20 yards from the train, regarding us with polite interest. But we're hoping to get a closer look at the animals soon. And sure enough, later on that first day, the train halts in the middle of nowhere. Beside the tracks there are 2 safari trucks waiting. We all pile in and bounce along dirt roads for a couple of hours. This is a disappointment. Supposedly there are white rhino and giraffe in the bush, but all we see are a few buck, 2 ostrich and a family of donkeys. The latter serve as guards against leopards. Apparently their braying scares the daylights out of the big cats and keeps them from preying on game on the reserve. Back on the train after our road trip, we tuck into freshly prepared game of the kind we had been admiring, and then, full of food, stagger off to our beds. Sleeping on a moving train can be tricky, but in a quiet siding outside a desert town, it isn't. When I wake, we appear to have passed through a space-time continuum and landed on Mars. The hills, the savannah, the camel thorns are gone. In their place is an endless flat nothingness of sand and rock, and in the grey half-light of dawn it has a reddish tinge. The sense of an extraterrestrial experience is heightened by a line of yellow lights twinkling on the horizon, like a lone settlement on a hostile planet. This is the land the Nama people call Namib, meaning plain without end. It stretches for more than 800 kilometres from north to south and 120 kilometres from the Skeleton Coast to the grasslands of the Kalahari. There is no shade because there are no trees, and no rivers because there is no rain to speak of. Giant dunes driven by wind march across the desert, swallowing settlements that become ghost towns choked to death by sand. It is a strangely disturbing landscape to wake up to. Still half awake, I look out at the dunes. Beside the train, the monotony is broken by 2 lines of wooden telegraph poles marching into infinity that deepen a sense of loneliness. But this is where we stop for breakfast, and the dune sprinter appears, ready to guide us to the top. This strange place is now a tourist playground. Led by the train staff, we climb a massive dune. From the crest there is a view to the ocean, 3 miles distant, shrouded in fog created by the convergence of desert heat and the icy Benguela current. In days gone by, this was a place of death for mariners, their ships impaled on reefs. Now, close to shore, a vessel hovers in the gloom like a ghost ship suspended in mid-air. Behind us lies a panorama of haunting beauty as we look back from the top of the dune over the Namib Desert. The desert is 2 billion years old, and its stillness exerts an almost spiritual influence on travellers who take the time to stand and stare. This is nature in all its primeval magnificence, where troubles of the modern world become utterly insignificant. It is also a place of fun. Running down a dune is easier than trekking up it, especially when you bound in great leaps and fly through the air. The excitement of running down a vast mountain of sand over, we approach the end of our journey and discover that the yellow lights we saw in the distance at dawn were the outskirts of Swakopmund. The ghosts of Schutztruppe cavalry who trotted through its streets are long gone, but happily the railway they left behind survives in the land God made in anger.
2.24
We're all familiar with the Great Pyramids of Giza and the ruins of Machu Picchu, but Patrick Marks decided to go off the beaten track to visit lesser-known sites.
The 30-kilometer taxi ride from Cairo to Djoser Pyramid was not as uncomfortable a journey as I thought it would be. And unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza, which seemed to get less and less awe-inspiring the closer I got, indeed, I admit to being more disappointed than impressed by the time we reached the base, the smaller and lesser-known pyramid of Djoser was such a magnificent sight that the feeling was one of being awestruck rather than merely impressed. The relative absence of tourists, a stark reminder that the more remote the place, the greater the impression. Next on my list was a trip to More, Peru, which, unlike Machu Picchu, is an ancient Inca site more agricultural than residential, serving basically as a giant farming laboratory. Unfortunately, it was such a dark night when we arrived that we had to wait until the next day before we could see anything, meaning I was not so much excited as impatient to view our intended destination. Still, as we looked down into the giant pit, as the sun rose at dawn.
2.25 Dialogue 1
OK, here we are, 16A and 16B. Which seat do you want, the window or the aisle?
Whichever, I don't mind. You choose.
OK, thanks. I'll take the window. But first I'm going to the dining carriage to get a coffee. Can I get you something?
Yes, a coffee would be great, thanks.
Dialogue 2
However did you manage to park in there? That space is tiny.
I don't really know. I just did it. It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It sure is. But are you going to be able to get out?
I can only try.
Dialogue 3
It's such a long journey. Is it really worth it, do you think? I mean, whatever form of transport we choose, it's going to take us at least 10 hours. And it's so expensive.
No, it isn't actually. Not at the moment. Look, there's a great offer for this weekend. Come on, you know it's worth it.
Okay, whatever. Book the flights then.
2.26 Speaker 1.
My friends talked about taking a cruise, that it was great for seeing places without taking risks, and I'd actually wanted to give it a go for a while. I could imagine the excitement of waking up somewhere new every morning. I opted to cruise around South America, which took me to incredible locations I could only have reached after hours of planning. Actually getting to them all would have taken ages, too. I guess that was the bottom line for me. My job is demanding, and I value my leisure time, so I need to use what time I have wisely. I admit to a certain nervousness before leaving because the sea can get rough, but I soon got over that.
Speaker 2.
I hate being told what to do and where to go on holiday because my working life is so organised. I love surfing, and last summer my mate and I planned a trip where we played it by ear, just rolling up at beaches as we chose. I bought a camper van to make this easy, although it was pricey. As we had no particular destination in mind, we kept our eye on social media to check where the good surf was. I was looking forward to it, but there was a surprising amount of hassle trying to find inexpensive places to camp overnight. That spoiled it, really. That's the problem of travelling on a shoestring. I plan to sell the van and do something different next year.
Speaker 3.
My friend and I are quite different in what we want from a vacation. Though we both love seeing new places, he likes to do active stuff while I'm happy to lie on a beach reading. To satisfy both of us, we decided to fly to Los Angeles and hire a car so we could get off the beaten track, especially into the mountains. The only thing was, some of the roads we ended up driving on had very big drop-offs. I was too frightened to drive along them, so my friend had to do it all. We did do sightseeing stuff in the cities, which, predictably, we both enjoyed.
Speaker 4.
I went on an all-inclusive holiday last summer at this amazing spa. There were pampering treatments, of course, but also loads of different things I could do for fitness. Take a dip, do yoga, go mountain biking, stuff like that. I wasn't sure I wanted to go at first. What swung it for me was not that friends who'd done something similar said how good an experience it was, but that I was able to pay for everything in advance. I'm hopeless at budgeting. My spa resort happened to be way up in the mountains, isolated and stunningly beautiful, so I could disconnect from everything that normally gets me down. It was great for unwinding and reducing tension. By chance, I met lovely people too, and I've kept in touch with them ever since.
Speaker 5.
Last year, I needed to do something different, even if it was challenging. And that was certainly how it turned out, but I have no regrets. My friend and I settled on a trek in Iceland where the volcanic landscapes were so incredible we had to pinch ourselves to believe they were real. Although we expected a feeling of getting away from it all, the fact that hardly any of our friends had been there was what really motivated us. Trekking was certainly hard going with the backpacks. Luckily, by staying in shelters each night, we were able to travel fairly light. As we'd booked each shelter in advance, we were told we always had to reach the next one or lose the money, so we had to walk every day. But at least this meant we came across lots of other trekkers with colourful stories to tell.
2.27
1.
Play it by ear. Improvise.
2.
Take a dip. Have a swim.
3.
Get away from it all. Escape your normal routine.
4.
Get off the beaten track. Go where few people go.
5.
Travel on a shoestring. Not spend much money on a trip.
6.
Pinch yourself. Convince yourself something is real.
7.
Roll up. Arrive.
8.
Use your time wisely. Not waste time.
2.28.
1.
Try it. Give it a go.
2.
Looked after. Kept an eye on.
3.
Persuaded. Swung it for.
4.
Priority. Bottom line.
5.
Difficult. Hard going.
2.29.
So, let's have a look at these photos of holidays then. What do they have in common? Well, I can see a number of similarities in photos B and C. They're both holidays you can do quite cheaply, sightseeing and camping. The tourists in the city, the sightseers in photo B, are obviously backpackers. They're probably staying in hostels, that kind of place, and they're probably on a pretty tight budget. These two photos are also alike because these are holidays that young people with limited funds might like. On the other hand, photo A differs from the others in some key ways. First of all, it's a very specialised holiday for physically fit people. Scaling a peak as high as the one in the photograph requires a certain set of skills if it is going to be done properly and safely. There are other notable differences too. You can imagine how much all that equipment costs, meaning this is definitely a holiday for someone who doesn't have to worry too much about money. It also takes place largely in a single location, as compared to a sightseeing holiday, for example, during which you're probably moving around a lot from city to city or country to country. You know, like doing a tour on Interrail. That's much more dynamic because it lets you see lots of things quite quickly. The mountaineering holiday is also dissimilar in that it probably requires a great deal of preparation and a predetermined schedule. In contrast, on the sightseeing holiday, you're much freer to do what you want when you want. You can decide to go somewhere else whenever you like. It's for spontaneous people who want to choose for themselves.
I agree with you, but talking about freedom, there are differences between holidays B and C as well. On the sightseeing holiday, you'd be surrounded by people, whereas on the camping holiday, the people obviously want to be on their own. You know that the people want to be alone because they could have gone to a campsite and been with others, but instead they chose to go to a very wild location. Unlike the sightseers, these people want real peace and tranquility, just walking in the country and relaxing. Another crucial difference is that, unlike photo B, this is a holiday about being out in the wilderness, at one with nature, leaving the city behind and enjoying the silence.
2.30. Speaker 1. It was the first time I'd been back to Paris since my university days when I'd visited an old friend, Lauren. We've lost touch now, and I'm not sure she's still there. Besides, what with having to organise the meetings, refreshments, and all the accommodation arrangements, I probably wouldn't have had time to socialise anyway. The conference room being double booked didn't help either, let me tell you. That meant quite a lot of extra running about that left little time to be bored. Hopefully, though, next time I go back, I'll be able to get out and about more and see some sights. I do think I'll try and establish contact with Lauren again, though. Speaker 2.
I'd considered it a great opportunity to catch up with an old buddy. I had a few days off work and we hadn't seen each other for years. We both work in sales and are quite busy in general, but at this time of year business can be a little slow. It was all quite last minute, if truth be told, and the tickets were cheap, and there was no predicting such a freak storm at my end. What with the delays and all, by the time I landed in Munich, my next flight was already in the air. Of course, it was too late to cancel everything, so I decided to make the most of being in a new city and turned it into a little sightseeing trip.
Speaker 3.
I've always had an amateur interest in robotics, so when I heard about the exhibition, I decided I had to go. It's really big business nowadays, and all the experts in Europe would be there, so it was a great opportunity to learn something new. I looked into flying initially, but that was beyond my means, and I was thinking of cancelling. But then a friend put me onto car sharing, where you find someone going to your destination and share costs. A great deal, I thought. But when I saw the state of the vehicle, I must admit I can't say I was optimistic. In actual fact, we barely made it to the border before the trouble started.
Speaker 4.
Since moving abroad, I haven't been able to see friends or family so often. So when my sister decided to tie the knot, I thought I'd better book a flight and catch up with everyone. The fact that my passport had expired caused an initial panic, as obviously without that I'd never get through customs or out of the airport. Fortunately, the embassy were really helpful and issued me with an emergency travel document in no time. The time difference was a real pain for a few days, and it took some time to adjust. But by the day of the ceremony, I was back to normal, had a wonderful day, and I even bumped into some old friends I hadn't seen in ages.
Speaker 5.
Me and my friends have been meaning to go for ages. So when we saw that this year the festival was taking place just over the border, we thought we'd make a trip out of it. One of my friends even knows somebody who lives in Berlin, who offered us his floor to crash on, so costs were minimal. So we were on the train and about halfway there when we got the message that he had to leave town for a funeral. He was very apologetic and all, but, of course, with such a big event in town, everything was fully booked. It's not the first time I've slept in a train station, but hopefully the last.
3.1.
1.
Pure feeling. Sheer sense.
2.
Surrounding something. Swirling around something.
3.
Watching with open mouths. Gaping.
4.
Many things happening at the same time. A flurry of something.
5.
Strongly emotional. Visceral.
6.
Filling something. Packing something out.
7.
Extreme. Radical.
8.
Reproduce something. Replicate something.
9.
Stopping themselves from breathing. Holding their breath.
10.
Updated version. Reboot.
3.2.
Adjectives to describe music.
Percussive. Rhythmic. Melodic. Choral.
Places. Objects.
Aisles. Stage. Props. Stilts.
3.3.
1.
Misguided. Ill-judged.
2.
Very exciting or frightening. Heart-stopping.
3.
Having continued for a long time. Long running.
4,
Having a great influence or effect. Far-reaching.
5,
Having your mouth open because you are amazed. Slack-jawed.
6,
Earning the largest amount of money. Highest grossing.
3.4.
1,
Having good intentions. Well-meaning.
2,
Very exciting, shocking, or strange. Mind-blowing.
3,
Unlikely or difficult to believe. Far-fetched.
4,
Full of exciting events. Action-packed.
5,
Clever. Quick-witted.
6,
Not liking to spend money. Tight-fisted.
3.5.
Now on Art Attack, it's time for our regular feature, 2-Minute Histories. Today's subject, performance poetry.
Spoken poetry has its roots in pre-literate societies. In ancient Greece, epic poems like Homer's Odyssey were recited to music by a poet-singer. Their poetry spoke of subjects of love, war and peace, relationships with the gods, and grief and loss. The advent of printing in the 15th century changed the role of the poet from entertainer to provider of written texts and transformed many listeners into solitary readers. The Beat movement was an American literary movement originating in the 1950s. Beat poets like Allen Ginsberg brought poetry back to the streets with spoken word performances. Open mic nights, introduced in the 1980s, allowed unknown poets to perform their own work on stage and led to the development of poetry slams, where competitors were given a time limit to present their work to a set of judges. Arising from urban unrest in the US in the 1970s and 80s, rap and hip-hop led to new ways for non-traditional poets to showcase their skills. Performance poetry is one of the most popular forms of poetry today. Contemporary performance poets are achieving new levels of prominence thanks to YouTube and other online media outlets.
3.6.
The Irresistible Rise of Kate Tempest.
Kate Tempest is a poet from Brockley, South London, and the youngest ever recipient of the prestigious Ted Hughes Award for New Work in Poetry, recognising excellence and innovation for her 2012 piece Brand New Ancients. But there's more to Kate than meets the eye. On the one hand, she's the soul of modernity. She began her career as a rapper and is still vastly popular on the rap circuit. She had a wayward youth, living in squats and getting tattoos, and her voice is hardly upper class. Her London drawl is full of street slang and glottal stops. By the standards of the poetry world, she seems practically science fiction. Then there is the other hand. After leaving school with no A-levels, she ended up gaining a degree from Goldsmiths. In her straight poetry, Tempest's focus is firmly classical. She bases her subjects on the lives of the gods and monsters of Greek mythology. Not perhaps what you would expect from an urban rapper who cites Roots, Maneuver and the Wu-Tang Clan among her other key influences. Born Kate Calvert in 1985, Tempest is one of the rising stars of a young performance community that might be viewed with suspicion by some old-fashioned members of the poetry establishment. Brand New Ancients is an hour-long spoken word performance set over a live orchestral score. Through a combination of storytelling, lyricism and music, Tempest tells the epic story of two South London families as their respective generations grow and intertwine. On hearing her shortlisting for the award announced, Kate tweeted, "Brand new Ancients been shortlisted for the Ted Hughes Award for Poetry, and people love to say performance poets aren't proper. Yes, mate." She spent the afternoon before the awards performing her work for inmates in Holloway Prison. Tempest is a lyricist first and foremost. She fell into poetry after attending a poetry slam. In 2014, her debut album, Everybody Down, was nominated for the annual Mercury Music Prize, along with Damon Albarn and FKA Twigs, among others. In the very same week, she found herself named as one of 2014's Next Generation Poets by the Poetry Society for Brand New Ancients, joining a once-a-decade list of the brightest talents in the UK and Ireland. Then there is her novel, which more fully explores the plotline of Everybody Down, the 3 plays she staged over the years, and her phenomenal reputation as a spoken-word poet. "I feel extremely lucky to be in a situation where I can indulge all the different parts of my creative personality," she says. When it comes to poetry, Tempest is fascinated by the distant past. Stories from the classical world were part of her childhood. These are the sort of stories that really infiltrate, about families and archetypal human tendencies and raw, dark emotions. They never seemed dead stories to me, they always lived and were real. But Tempest's poems aren't simply routine retellings of time-worn tales. Rather, she picks up the fabulous familiar characters, dusts them down, and hauls them into the present. In Brand New Ancients, the gods are recast as 2 warring families whose lives highlight the immortal and very real truths of love and loss. Her full-length poetry collection, Hold Your Own, is based on the mythological figure of Tiresias, the blind Greek prophet who spent 7 years transformed into a woman. In both works, Kate holds up a mirror to contemporary life in a direct and provocative way. Brand New Ancients has been performed to packed concert halls on both sides of the Atlantic. On stage, Tempest has a genuinely mesmerising presence and is acutely responsive to her audience. Her physical presence is charming, disarming, both childlike and mature, with a confidence in how her body uses space, but also maintaining the innocent, wide openness of a very young girl. Audiences are captivated by her spell, calling out encouragement. In her work, Tempest handles empathy for the marginalised, the powerless and the dispossessed, as well as gender. Her voice raw, her posture vulnerable, she pleads with the audience to be empathetic towards our fellow human beings. Tempest has helped to popularise spoken-word poetry, reaching a whole new audience. According to Poetry Society director Judith Palmer, it's thriving among younger people. There's a lot of poets trying it, but it relies on festivals having the nerve to commission new work. Festival Republic, which organises festivals around the UK, first booked Tempest to perform in 2008, and she has appeared at their Latitude Festival several times since. She was a strong voice and is quite unique. There are page poets and there are live poets, and she's very much a live performance poet. Once you've seen her perform, you're quite mesmerised, the organisers say. However, some would argue that Hold Your Own turned her from a performance poet to a page poet. Her ability to defy categorisation is a strength, Palmer adds. A good writer can do different things, she says. With a now for Kate Tempest? I can't wait to find out. 3.7
I'd like to welcome to the studio Sarah Mills, who took a gap year to go travelling and share her thoughts and feelings on a blog so that friends, family, and anyone else for that matter, could follow the ups and downs of her exploits. Welcome to the studio, Sarah.
Thank you.
Tell me first, what initially prompted you to go globe-trotting and record your thoughts on a blog?
Well, I'd always enjoyed travelling and found it a very emotional experience. But whereas traditional travel blogs and programmes seem to focus on what you see and do and not how it makes you feel, I decided to focus on the latter and use the blog as a means to share the full gamut of different feelings you can experience on the road. To be honest, I thought to myself, nobody'll read it whether I recommend sites or not. Which basically meant that I was free to express my true feelings as well as any doubts I had when I found myself in, let's say, somewhat difficult circumstances.
But the blog did become popular and eventually came in handy for another purpose.
That's right. I decided to try to raise some money via a crowdfunding site. You know, where I could appeal for funds to finance my venture. Unfortunately, I got very little response. A few travel companies told me that had I contacted them beforehand or had I agreed to wear a sponsor's shirt, they could have helped me out. But I was more than a little wary about turning my trip into a marketing campaign. The next thing you know, they'd be saying, well, we'll give you some money on condition that you visit this or that site, or as long as you take a picture here. So what I ended up doing was appealing directly through the blog and, somewhat to my surprise, I had gained quite a few readers and they were more than happy to help finance me and keen for me to continue expressing my feelings without compromise. But for their support, I wouldn't have been able to keep going.
And grateful we are to those contributors. Should you wish to follow the adventures of Sarah, she's going back on the road in a few weeks, and you can find her blog on www.sarah...
3.8 Dialogue 1.
The skateboard park is such a cool place. Why would anyone want to get rid of it?
Well, there are major redevelopment plans for this whole area, and to be honest, it does need to be cleaned up a bit. It's been around a long time. There's not much else for us skateboarders at the moment, so at least the developers are offering to create a new site under the bridge, even though it'll cost them a lot.
The park perhaps does look a bit old and a bit of modernising wouldn't hurt, but people have been skateboarding here for 40 years, so it's like a museum to the sport. A new park wouldn't be the same. The property developers claim they need to build shops and restaurants on it to bring in more money to the area and support local residents, though I'm not convinced. I went to this public consultation where they set out the nuts and bolts of the redevelopment and described the purpose-built skate park. They didn't accept any questions from skateboarders like us, and they made it seem like a done deal. Well, they'll soon find they've got a legal battle on their hands.
I bet you'll get a lot of backing from the whole skateboarding community.
Dialogue 2.
Have you seen the development plans on the town website?
Yes, and I won't miss the skateboarding park if they do get rid of it. There are all these important cultural institutions around here. Concert halls, theatres, and then there's that eyesore. I have no idea why people like rushing around on concrete bumps on a bit of wood with wheels. They're so noisy. It'll be great to be able to walk past here and have a normal conversation on the way back to the office without shouting.
What do you think will happen with the legal battle? It seems to be hotting up. There were lots of articles on both sides in the paper last week.
The skateboarders have a persuasive argument. Plus the park's pretty well known, and people come from other towns to use it. That means money for local businesses like ours. The overall look of the projected buildings is certainly appealing, though.
The developers' plans seem reasonable to me. OK, they're doing it for their own financial gain, but there are local benefits too. And the area isn't exactly pretty right now. It's not just greedy rich people against everyone. That's an oversimplification.
Let's see how it pans out. It's too close to call.
Dialogue 3.
So it looks like the decision was to keep the skateboarding park and not do the development. That was quick.
I could see it coming. The skateboarders generated lots of publicity. They used social media to whip up a real wave of support. They made a big thing about their own rights and what a historical place the skateboarding park was. But they didn't consider the benefits of the redevelopment for musicians like us who play in the concert halls, or anyone else for that matter. I guess they were too focused on their own feelings.
Most people didn't understand the complexity of the projects that were included in the plans. The new rehearsal studios that would have attracted new audiences for us, the pop-up shops that might have been run by young entrepreneurs. It could offer genuine local regeneration on all fronts, like a real creative hub. But that was downplayed by the people involved, which meant it became a real missed opportunity.
The studios would have been good for us and offered local kids a dedicated space where they could develop an interest in culture. The developers just didn't highlight that enough.
It's definitely a case of people not getting the message.
3.9.
1.
Local regeneration.
2.
Legal battles.
3.
Cultural institutions.
4.
Property developers.
5.
Creative hub.
6.
Pop-up shops.
7.
Public consultation.
8.
Redevelopment plans.
9.
Done deal.
3.10.
Have you decided what to vote for then? What do you think the school should invest the European grant money in?
Well, I haven't exactly decided, but I've already discounted the climbing wall because it's a sports facility and not a cultural one.
Oh, I didn't know it had to be something cultural. Anyway, I bet that'll still be the most popular choice among the students.
Maybe, but I'm not going down that road. Out of the other 4, what do you think?
Well, I quite like the idea of the auditorium. One of the main pluses would be that it could be used for all kinds of things, and so a larger proportion of students would benefit, don't you think? We could do karaoke there, for example, and of course, more serious stuff as well.
Yes, but couldn't we just keep using the gym like we've always done? It's quite adequate.
True, I guess we could. You know, I see that as a drawback of the art studio as well. We already have a space in which we can paint and sculpt, and although it's hardly state-of-the-art, it still serves its purpose.
You're right. The art studio wouldn't really be anything new as such. I actually think there are points in favour of the cinema, you know. The nearest commercial cinema is miles away. Most of the time, I can't be bothered to go all that way.
But what kinds of films could the school afford to screen? They'd probably be really old and dated. I'd say that was a bit of a negative aspect.
Would it matter that they were old? It would be great education for us, I think. We don't always have to watch contemporary films.
I'm not so sure. Most people want to watch films on their computers these days anyway, instead of going to a cinema.
That could be an argument in favour of the updated computer lab then.
But there's a strong argument against that idea. Namely, students have access to computers at home. Plus, I think we have enough computers at school already.
Yes, but the computers here are quite old. I'm sure most students would really like an up-to-date computer lab with the latest computers and software. Access to the very latest technology is a strong selling point.
But don't you think we spend too much time looking at screens? I know you won't agree, but taking everybody's needs into account, I actually still think we should invest in the climbing wall.
You must be joking. That's not cultural. For me, bearing everything in mind, I'd say the computer lab is the best option because that can be cultural and you can use it for a lot of different things. For example, you could use it to watch or even edit movies. And it can also serve as a studio for digital design.
Well, I've made up my mind already. You vote for the computer lab if you want, but I'm going for the climbing wall and we'll have to agree to disagree.
OK. Vote for what you want. At least I'll have the satisfaction of proving you wrong.
We'll see about that.
3.11. Dialogue 1.
Ah, here it is. I've been wanting to see this painting in the flesh, so to speak, for ages. What do you think? Magnificent, huh? Mesmerizing. It must have taken forever to paint.
Really? I'm not saying it's easy, and there's undeniably great talent needed to produce something like this, but surely once you have the general concept, a gifted artist would put it onto canvas in no time at all.
You think so? I'm not so sure. Look at the stroke of the brush, the balance and the perspective. It's captivating. A modern masterpiece and original in so many ways.
Well, be that as it may, it's hard to justify the price tag. Worth over $1 million, they say. Some think modern art has become so hyped up by the press and art critics that it's impossible to put any objective value on a piece nowadays. While I'm not of that opinion, and I can't deny that there is some outstanding work being produced, it still requires the discerning eye of the art buyers and gallery owners to recognize real greatness when they see it.
Dialogue 2.
I finally finished the book you lent me. Hardly what I'd call reading for pleasure.
I'd have to agree. A pretty unique plot, though, and despite the rather far-fetched characters and the cheesy dialogue, there's something about it to make you want to keep going.
Oh, the characters, the dialogues, the settings. And what about the way some sentences just finish in the middle? And the poems? Who does he think he is? Shakespeare? Joyce?
The most unbearable thing for me is the way it jumps about. There's no logic between one chapter and the next, so you have to go back and reread it at times, forcing you to reread those dreadful dialogues all over again.
Yeah, definitely a case of trying to be too clever. I mean, the actual language used was pretty straightforward, and it's not really that tricky to follow. But if you ask me, it just doesn't work. One thing's for sure, it won't be a modern classic like I think the novelist hopes it will be.
Dialogue 3.
That play I saw last night was frankly quite shocking.
That bad, was it?
I don't mean shocking bad. I mean shocking. I really didn't think something so controversial would be allowed on the stage. Not only was it violent and full of bad language, but some of the opinions the characters expressed were frankly disturbing.
Pretty powerful stuff, eh?
You can say that again. Don't get me wrong, I'm as much against censorship as you are, and those misguided people calling for it to be closed should see it for themselves before they go ranting and raving about it. It definitely does get you thinking, though.
I think all too often controversy for controversy's sake is a waste of time. I'll happily sit through it if you can genuinely recommend it, but if there's no discernible message and it's just designed to shock, you'll have a tough time convincing me it's worth the time or the effort.
3.12.
1,
Coexist.
2,
Multitasking.
3,
Underestimate.
4,
Pseudo-facts.
5,
Misinformation.
6,
Self-imposed.
7,
Overload.
3.13.
1,
Take notice of something. Devote attention to something.
2,
Having a bad effect over time. Taking its toll.
3,
Intentionally not see something. Blinker ourselves.
4,
Confusing or complicating your thinking. Cluttering your thoughts.
5,
Doing activities in order of importance. Prioritizing tasks.
6,
Notice prejudice or preference. Detect bias.
3.14.
1,
If something blows your mind, it really impresses you.
2,
If something crosses your mind, you think about it.
3,
If you are in two minds, you are uncertain.
4,
If you are out of your mind, you are mad or very foolish.
5,
If you say, mind your own business, you are telling somebody not to ask about something private.
6,
If you say, mind your manners, you are telling somebody to behave correctly.
7,
Somebody who is absent-minded forgets things.
8,
Somebody who is tough-minded is determined and unsentimental.
3.15. Walk yourself well with the help of a government-backed app.
Keeping fit doesn't come easy to all of us, and if you're one of those people struggling to be more physically active and accomplish the 10,000 steps a day now recommended by health professionals, it helps to have some incentive to walk just that little bit further. If this rings true for you, then the Walk, a pedometer app with a difference, could be just the thing to encourage you to get up off the sofa and put one foot in front of the other. Created by developers Six to Start in collaboration with the UK National Health Service, the Walk is a fitness app for imaginative people who want a less intense workout than hitting the gym, but who still want to get active. Though not as strenuous as some other forms of exercise, regular walking has been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease and diabetes, as well as aiding weight loss and, somewhat paradoxically, increasing energy levels by boosting circulation and increasing oxygen supply to every cell in the body. The premise behind the Walk is that, through a case of mistaken identity, you are given a vital package to deliver to a distant destination in the UK. But, as you are about to board a train to take you there, terrorists blow it up and set off an electromagnetic pulse, rendering cars and trains unusable. Walking is your only option, and now the terrorists are on your trail because they want the device you're carrying. The underlying concept is to encourage players to perambulate in the real world as part of the aforementioned apocalyptic game narrative. Players' phones' accelerometers track the distance they cover on foot, unlocking levels and hours of storytelling narrated by talented voice actors. The further you walk, the further the plot progresses. Straightforward, engaging and effective, the Walk uses similar mechanics to its predecessor, Six to Start's Zombies Run, a popular fantasy running app which encourages users to escape pursuing zombies whenever they go for a jog. By lowering the requirement to walking and focusing on increasing general daily movement rather than dedicated, prescribed and sometimes prohibitive training routines, it is hoped that almost everyone can reap the benefits this time. There's no question that the wider theory is an interesting one. Apps and games that encourage activity have the potential to cut down on healthcare requirements through prevention, negating the need to cure illnesses resulting from sedentary lifestyles. If broadly adopted, such products could take a bite out of the billions of pounds that obesity-related diseases cost the taxpayer each year. Even more intriguing is that the Department of Health is funding external mobile startups and indie developers at all. When asked to explain, the department disclosed that such investment is not only about encouraging lifestyle change, but also nurturing innovative ideas. So, while the initial motivation might be the potential savings gained through a healthier public, there appears also to be the subsidiary goal of encouraging jobs and economic growth. With government support, apps like the Walk, which otherwise might not have the resources that state backing can allow, stand a better chance of gaining traction with the public and ultimately making a significant contribution to both the health of the nation and the economy.
3.16.
Michael, good to see you. It's been ages. How are you?
Hi, Janet. Great, thanks. And you?
Good. Are those beautiful flowers for me, by any chance?
Had I known I was going to bump into you for sure, I would have bought you some. They're actually for my mum. It's her birthday today. And you're the second person I've just explained myself to. I just bumped into Paul, who asked me if I was going on a date.
Well, lucky Mum. I love flowers, but Jack stopped buying me flowers ages ago.
Ah, you're still together then?
Yeah. 2 years now. Everything's good, I have to say. Except for the flowers.
Listen, I'm meeting my brother in half an hour at the cinema. He's there watching a film, and then we're going to go to my mum's for tea. You want to grab a quick coffee?
Sure, why not? Which cinema is it? I'm meeting Jack at the Orion at 5.
That's where and when I'm meeting my brother. Awesome. Let's grab a coffee at Mario's then. It's a 5-minute walk from the cinema. Then we can go there together for 5.
Super. It's a plan. Let's go. Oh, these silly shoes. I can't walk in these at all.
Here, take my arm.
Thanks. Oh, look, there's Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert. So, tell me, are you still into all that mystical mumbo-jumbo? Meditation, astral projection, hypnotism and whatnot?
Hey, easy. And yes, I am. Look deep into my eyes.
No chance. Here we are. Let's sit outside, okay?
Fine. Here we are, madam. Actually, I've been reading a bit about palm reading recently. Give me your hand and let me tell you your future.
Go on then. Here you are.
Ah, I see you will meet a tall, dark man in a dark, crowded place. It's crowded, but very quiet.
Yeah, that'll be Jack in the cinema. You're a fraud. Nice try, Mr. Guru.
Okay, you got me. But please don't tell anyone. It could ruin my reputation. Oh, here's the waitress. What are you having?
I'm not really sure.
3.17.
The idea that you can become rich and famous by hosting a video blog on YouTube, Facebook, or other social media platforms was once thought to be a total fantasy. But the ever-increasing number of successful internet video stars has proved that online success is very real indeed. How do these self-made celebrities attract so many views? And how do they make so much money? Music videos are considered to be generating the biggest audiences on YouTube, Vimeo, and other streaming channels. Some big stars have become famous after posting self-produced music online. But the most popular music videos are produced by professionals in support of stars who already have millions of followers. Of course, these can be watched for free, but big money is made both through selling downloads of the music itself and through linked advertising. Self-made video bloggers are a more interesting phenomenon. These are people who make their own videos of themselves sharing, for example, makeup and fashion tips or gaming demonstrations. The number of vloggers is reported to have been growing rapidly. The ones that have an outstanding personality and a unique approach can become hugely popular and rich as well. It is widely known that some vloggers have made millions of dollars by allowing companies to advertise on their site, and also by selling products related to their subject. This kind of fame can even become a gateway to other forms of success, such as creating a product brand with your own name on it, or even guest starring on TV shows. Naturally, anything that attracts a lot of public interest is going to appeal to large companies. Some people reckon that vlogging is the new form of mass advertising. Companies make money indirectly by providing a free service which attracts new customers. Of course, the number of commercial video blogs produced by medical clinics, investment companies, and food producers have given vlogging a less personal face. But in the end, it's actually personality and a unique message that turn humble homemade videos into the road to wealth and fame.
3.18
On this episode of Media Today, I'm talking to Mark Adams, a newspaper journalist, and Paula Robertson, a university lecturer who runs a blog on citizen journalism, where ordinary people can post articles and reports. Mark, set the scene for us. How would you describe the responsibilities of a professional newspaper journalist?
I'd say we inform the public about events and issues and assess their potential impact. We comb through public records and seek out other sources of information, such as interviewing people or visiting locations where noteworthy incidents have taken place. The bottom line is we strive to present a truthful, well-balanced account of things that have happened. Clearly, we stay within the law and we're careful about things like the privacy of people we write about. And of course, it goes without saying that we're good writers.
So, Paula, in that case, what are citizen journalists and what do they do?
Well, let's clarify the terminology. When ordinary people post their own accounts of an event on a blog or specialized website like mine, it's known as citizen journalism. Nowadays, the prevalence of social media means that news gets out quickly and often people post or tweet things without checking the facts. And if their tweet goes viral, it may cause trouble if it's speculative rather than fact-based. But true citizen journalists may want to tell their side of a story and set up a discussion, or they may just have happened to witness something and want to share their experience. Of course, they're unpaid and their views are their own.
Mark, what's the print journalist's perspective on amateurs writing about the news in blogs?
On the one hand, I think it is a common misconception that just by posting online someone can become a journalist. From the opposing angle, though, bloggers and other citizen journalists can contribute helpfully by engaging people with issues that might otherwise get missed or ignored by the mainstream media, especially local issues or ones related to very specific topics. Of course, there is always the question of whether they're acting responsibly and are backed up by solid data. Nevertheless, citizen journalism is regarded positively by many because amateurs provide an ordinary person's view, and often a fresh angle. Regrettably, there isn't always total transparency in the mainstream media, and of course there can also be bias. Newspapers must make money, and that can influence what gets published.
I see. So, how would you describe the current situation in the media? Paula?
There are signs that the mainstream media is beginning to take citizen journalists more seriously. For example, recently there have been agreements between some newspapers and citizen journalists where the paper asks readers to contribute information and amateur footage for stories, and also to provide ideas for new coverage. One paper I know even provides tutorials for shooting video and so on to encourage more ordinary people to contribute. For the newspapers, it's clearly a move towards a better, more open form of journalism.
Well, that's debatable. Citizen journalists' lack of impartiality might actually be seen as a weakness, however brave it might be. Their reporting may show a biased attitude or be written from a certain ideological viewpoint. Professionals present issues objectively, or at least strive to. And don't forget that most citizen journalists have had no formal training in reporting or dealing with sensitive issues, so they can be unreliable.
Is there an example of a website you found particularly effective, Paula?
One that comes to mind is EbolaWatch.com. They reported on the Ebola outbreak from the perspective of people living in the most affected African countries. It was actually set up as a collaboration between medical experts and citizens reporting from the ground, and it quickly became the most reliable source of information about Ebola worldwide, challenging perceptions about the handling of the crisis in Africa and the commonly held notion that the Ebola crisis affected the whole continent rather than just a small corner of it. It was really this, plus the fact it was very well written, that made it so successful and influential.
How do you both see citizen journalism evolving in the next few years?
I predict a blurring of the divide between professionals and amateurs. People like me will certainly use more social media tools to get the public's opinion about a story or help with research. If the general public is involved in reporting news, that's good, although maybe there should be some kind of remuneration for everyone. I wonder whether this will lead to an increased trust in the media among the general population.
I think it's likely that citizen journalists will help professionals in terms of getting information from inside a community. Journalists often find getting witnesses hard. Hopefully, however, this blurring of the lines between professionals and amateurs won't cause confusion. So the approach must be formalized if it's to be reliable, and the danger is that it undermines the strength of the citizen journalists' impartiality and independence. I'd hate to see that happen.
Thank you both. And thank you for listening. If you like Media Today, you might also like our sister podcast, Reshoots, which discusses all things movies.
3.19
1.
It's not easy to find a well-balanced account of the current political situation.
2.
Mainstream media didn't report on the story.
3.
Some passers-by took amateur footage of the crime on their smartphones.
4.
Politicians usually have an ideological viewpoint based on a series of beliefs.
5.
A fresh angle on a topic is what a lot of people are looking for.
6.
If people can participate more in journalism, they will have increased trust in it.
7.
The story was a citizen report.
8.
It is a common misconception that only the mainstream media can report the news.
9.
The potential impact this article could have on internet privacy is huge.
3.20
There's no doubt that we all access an enormous amount of information online these days, but are we better informed as a result? Today on Town Square, we talked to several people to get their views of the subject. First, we spoke to Frank, a parent, who says his 2 teens are glued to social media and the internet. So, what's your take on this, Frank?
Well, like most people these days, when my kids want information, they quickly go to the internet to find it. They want the answer right away and they're impatient to get it. Well, fair enough, but the one thing that really bothers me about this is that they don't always check the source of the material. They tend to believe that if it's online, it must be true. It's clear that we need to teach people how to filter this information, to find out what's reliable. The key thing is that the entries on sites like Wikipedia are written collaboratively and they aren't always dependable. Sometimes it's just somebody's point of view, not objective fact, but many kids don't realise that.
Next, we asked a teenager, 18-year-old Laura, what she thought about that argument.
Well, I accept the point that a lot of our general knowledge comes from Wikipedia and that it can be subjective or inaccurate. But what about in the old days when we only received the news via newspapers or the TV? They used to make mistakes and manipulate the news as well. And it was harder to correct errors or bias in those days because everything took so long. To me, what's crucial today is that we make sure we receive news through a variety of channels. For instance, a lot of news coming through social media we associate with fun and leisure, and sometimes it's hard to take it seriously. Also, when somebody tweets a news story and that goes viral, how do you know it's to be trusted? If we can cross-check and find the same story on reliable news websites, in the newspapers, or on TV, then it's easier to be sure it's genuine. I guess the crux of the issue is that we can't rely on one source for all our information.
Next up, we spoke to John, a university student, to get his views.
When people ask me about the internet, I'm absolutely adamant in my view that it has been beneficial overall. I'm especially appreciative of how it lets us share information in exciting ways. Take, for example, crowdsourcing, in which many people contribute information to a story or project. There is a lot of expertise out there, and the internet makes it much easier for people to come together and exchange it. When I am working on an assignment, I can get help from students all over the world. Of course, I'm not convinced it is all unbiased or accurate, so I am always very careful who I speak to and how I use the information.
Finally, we spoke to Maria, who used to work in a social media company and now writes a blog about internet-related issues.
Well, I wonder if your listeners have considered how digitally mediated our information is and how quick we are to trust in all our computer programs. We need to be aware of the algorithms that filter our results so we only see what the program thinks we want to see. And don't overlook the fact that it's not only personalized advertising we get these days, but it also happens with news. Once we read one kind of story, our search engines and social media platforms start showing us similar stories and filtering out others. In some ways it's good because we get what we want, but the downside is that we don't get exposed to ideas that we might disagree with. And anyway, browsers and social media sites suggest products, adverts, information, everything. But do they always get it right? Do we really want these products? In many cases, absolutely not.
Thank you to everyone we spoke to. Next week, we will be talking about environmental issues and the...
3.21.
Hello to all of you out there and welcome to Tech Talk. Today we'll be talking about teenagers and technology with our guests Jenny and Charles. Thank you both for being available to talk to us today. Jenny, let's start with you. Can you give us some background about yourself?
Well, I'm a mother of 2 teenagers myself, so it's an issue which concerns me. We hear a lot about teenagers bent over their computers every day and doing nothing else, and this worries many parents who hark back to their own childhood of playing sports or running round the streets with their friends. In other words, they think of face-to-face rather than screen-to-screen communication.
It is a common concern, I think, that teens might be losing the desire to contact each other in the real world, so to speak, and are increasingly shutting themselves off from social interaction in which the physical presence of another person is relevant. But then again, I grew up with easy access to computers and social media, and I don't regard myself as especially prone to locking myself away in my room and communicating only through instant messaging or some other form of social media. I wonder if this isn't an exaggerated view encouraged by the media?
I see. Jenny, do you see this as an example of media hype?
Not precisely. I see it more as issues raised which need serious investigation before we can come to any conclusions. Interestingly enough, I've just been reading a book by Dana Boyd, a digital anthropologist. She has spent the past decade analysing how teenagers use social media by watching the subtle cultural signals, rituals and group dynamics. And after conducting extensive research in 18 states across the US, she argues that some of the received wisdom about social media is wrong. Teenagers are not being harmed by social media, as adults often fear. Instead, they are developing adaptive skills for this new digital age.
Interesting. Charles, how do you feel about this?
Well, what she's saying is that though their behaviour is baffling to adults, teens are fine. I think my own experience supports that, though I realise it might be a hard message for many parents to swallow. The key point is that social behaviour is adaptive, and people in power, that is parents in this case, rarely understand the coping strategies being used by others.
Jenny, do you think this demonstrates a fundamental change in the way teenagers in our society are behaving?
Well, we're still human beings and our basic social impulses haven't changed. Boyd argues that teenagers have 2 basic impulses. They want to explore the world and they want to socialise with their friends.
In previous generations, children could do this by wandering around their neighbourhoods or congregating in places such as shopping centres and parks. But these days, they often cannot, partly due to their parents' fears about danger and partly due to less free time generally. So instead, children rush to cyberspace. Adults have always been wary of teenager behaviour and have often regarded play as a waste of time. In much the same way, they are worried about their gathering in cyberspace, but actually this is just symptomatic of a desire to socialise.
So, how do you see social media use evolving over the next few years?
I don't see any major change. Teenagers are leading the way here, and in my view, we'll soon see adults using social media in a similar way to teens. The only difference would be that most adults have jobs, and this necessarily limits the time they can spend on social media and the use they put social media to.
I'd go along with that, Charles. What we have now is just the tip of the iceberg. I'd like to see more of a balance, though. We should have the courage to give kids more freedom physically to roam in the real world, alongside their travels in cyberspace.
Thanks to both of you. Send us your comments on today's discussion at hashtag
3.22.
1,
Essential. Critical.
2,
The most important. Paramount.
3,
Extreme. Radical.
4,
Increase something. Boost something.
5,
Never ending or getting better. Remorseless.
6,
Dealing with something. Tackling something.
7,
Make up something. Constitute something.
8,
Very harmful. Catastrophic.
9,
Considerable. Substantial.
3.23.
1,
The use of a resource. Consumption.
2,
The variety of kinds of life in an ecosystem. Biodiversity.
3,
Gases sent into the air. Emissions.
4,
The use of machinery to make farming more productive. Agricultural industrialization.
5,
The permanent destruction of forests. Deforestation.
6,
The industry of farming. Agribusiness.
7,
The part of the farming industry devoted to raising animals. Livestock sector.
8,
Being able to be maintained. Sustainable.
3.24.
1,
Take the bull by the horns. Face up to a challenge.
2,
Let sleeping dogs lie. Leave something alone if it might cause trouble.
3,
Be like water off a duck's back. Used to say that somebody is unconcerned by criticism.
4,
A wild goose chase. A search for something that is unattainable or non-existent.
5,
Kill two birds with one stone. Achieve two things with one action.
6,
straight from the horse's mouth. Directly from the source.
3.25.
1.
Let the cat out of the bag. Tell something that is supposed to be a secret.
2.
Donkey's years. An extremely long time.
3.
A wolf in sheep's clothing. Somebody who seems kind but is hostile.
4.
Hold your horses. Be patient. Wait before doing something.
5.
Pigs might fly. It's highly unlikely that something will happen.
3.26.
UN thanks its lucky stars.
In 1945, 51 countries formed the United Nations with the aim of maintaining international peace and security and promoting social progress. Today, nearly every nation in the world belongs to the intergovernmental organization. Most of us have heard about UN peacekeeping missions and humanitarian assistance, but the many other ways the UN affects all our lives are not always so well known. The organisation is central to global efforts to solve the many problems that challenge humanity. Day in, day out, the UN and its affiliated agencies work to promote respect for human rights, protect the environment, fight disease and reduce poverty. But getting the world to notice its activities requires more than unwavering commitment. Today, an army of royalty, actors, artists, authors, models, musicians, photographers and sports stars are lending a hand to shine a spotlight on the UN operations. Danny Kaye, an actor and comedian popular in the 1950s, showed how to raise the organization's status by accepting the honorary title of Goodwill Ambassador awarded to him by the Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, in 1954. What qualifies a singer, an actor or an athlete to represent a UN agency? And what good can celebrities really do? Fame has some clear benefits in certain roles. Celebrities attract attention, so they are in a position to focus the world's eyes on the agency's work, both in their own countries and abroad. They can use their influence and fame to help spread awareness and raise funds for its campaigns. Opponents of projects backed by celebrities claim that they are merely acting to their own advantage, hiding the emptiness of stardom behind the altruistic personas they present to the public. That is why the UN's priority has been to find superstars who have a track record of involvement in charitable causes and can represent the organisation in a way that wouldn't cheapen the brand. One private consultant who finds high-level supporters for the UN and other charities admits that the public and the media have the right to be cynical about celebrities getting involved in good causes. After all, the relationship may seem calculated and publicity-hungry. The task is to maintain the equilibrium between a given star's genuine interest in the problem and their potential personal gain. The UN's current roster of celebrities have a wide range of talents and achievements, but they do indeed all share a willingness to devote time and energy to the cause they represent. And in each case, a celebrity's association with the organisation comes about because they have already demonstrated their dedication. Without them, it would be a much harder job to gain public attention. Few global celebrities have done more to help raise the profile of a UN agency than Angelina Jolie. Her interest in humanitarian affairs began back in 2000 when she went to Cambodia to film the adventure movie Tomb Raider. Named a Goodwill Ambassador in 2001, Jolie has travelled to some of the remotest regions of the world to highlight the plight of refugees and inspire others to help. She still creates their greatest source of web hits. A more recent high-profile recruit is Brazil-born supermodel Gisele Bündchen. A committed environmentalist, Giselle donates a percentage of profits from her line of fashion sandals to protect Amazon rainforest water sources and supports a variety of environmental causes. With her help, the UN Environment Programme hopes to make environmental action a lifestyle choice. However, it was only once actor Leonardo DiCaprio, ponytailed and dressed in a smart suit, had appeared at the UN Climate Summit in 2014 to call for action that the programme achieved spectacular success. The star of Titanic and The Wolf of Wall Street has long been active on the climate front through his philanthropic foundation, and officials say they were impressed by his knowledge of the issues. The video of his speech has been watched by more than 1.5 million viewers, an all-time record for a UN video, while his tweets and retweets from the summit reached his 11.3 million followers. That's considerably more than the UN can claim. According to the head of the Public Information Department, some issues would never have been put on the map if they hadn't been supported by a celebrity. Thanks to a famous actor or singer, the message is amplified and spread across the star's fan base. So what is the verdict? Should celebrities lend their names to humanitarian causes? Do they have a unique ability to reach millions of people, many of whom may not normally be engaged? Or does celebrity endorsement trivialize the causes they support, even if they are doing it for the best of reasons? 3.27
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Thomas, and I'm here to tell you about my participation last year in an ongoing project monitoring wolves in a U.S. national park. The project involves volunteers, researchers, conservationists, environmentalists, and university students of subjects like anthropology, biology, or ecology, like me, all working together to monitor the numbers and behavior of the wolves. What attracted me was the impact of the work for the future of the environment in the park. Some volunteers describe the work as fascinating, others call it useful, but for me, it is vital, even though some people feel climate monitoring should be factored in too. First, I'll give you some background. Years ago, wolves living in the park were simply seen as predators, and a decision was made to eradicate them. I wish scientists had understood then how this would upset the natural balance of the area. What happened was that by removing the wolves, there was an increase in the numbers of elk, which then fed on young cottonwood trees growing near rivers, causing the trees to die. Before I started on the project, I'd also read a lot about how beavers depended on the roots and branches of the same cottonwood trees to build lodges. They also used the trees to build dams in the water, and I was staggered to discover that these actually irrigated the wetlands. Without these structures, the land quickly became drier. But lessons were learned, and in the mid-1990s, wolves were reintroduced into the park. As a result, the elk left the valleys and the trees flourished again. The beavers returned, encouraging new ecosystems. Predictably, these included fish, otters, and ducks in the rivers, and mice and rabbits on the land, which provided food for foxes. I hadn't expected there would be such a large variety of birds, though. So it's clear why the wolves need to be monitored, and that's where we volunteers come in. While research takes place in all weather, people might assume it's in summer that most work is done. But we were told it's easiest to study wolves in winter because that's when they move in daylight at lower elevations and also leave tracks, so that's when I went. We were all assigned a particular group of wolves to follow, and when we spotted them, we had to write down the time, the place, the number of individuals in the pack, including cubs, and their prey. It sounds easy, but the wolves were hard to find. Apart from that, and the patience we needed, I couldn't believe the freezing temperatures we had to cope with. Not everyone can be as lucky as I am, and see wolves in the wild. But anyone can get involved by becoming a sponsor, which is really worthwhile. There's information on the park website, and there are different levels of involvement, depending on how much you want to give. The highest donation gets you special gifts, including an in-depth report on the project and stunning photographs. Even the smallest gift gets you a colorful poster and fascinating snapshots of the work. Why not get involved? I'm glad I did.
3.28.
1,
Upset. Disturb.
2,
Factored in. Taken into account.
3,
Eradicate. Get rid of.
4,
Reintroduced. Brought back.
5,
Staggered. Astonished.
6,
Flourished. Grew successfully.
7,
Monitored. Observed.
3.29. Olga, it's your turn first. Here are your pictures. They show people doing things in the natural world. I'd like you to compare the pictures and say what the relationship might be between the people and the landscape, and how the presence of people might affect the environment.
Well, they show very different activities and relationships. The first shows people skiing, so involved in a leisure activity, and therefore I assume that their relationship with the landscape is one of enjoyment and appreciation. I mean, they must be having fun skiing and snowboarding, but they are also almost certainly enjoying the fresh air and the beauty of the spot, too. We can't rule out the possibility that it's during a school break, or the weekend at least, as it looks pretty busy, and I can imagine that a lot of them are on holiday. Presumably, most of these people have traveled out here to spend a few days in the snow. I mean, I very much doubt that it's near where they usually live, and so they may have come out here by car or bus. In the second photo, the situation is completely different. Here the people are working in the fields. They are almost part of the landscape. I assume that they must live here too, and that the landscape allows them to make a living. I can envisage that it's the main way of making money in that area. And their families may have been doing the same thing, living the same lives, for generations and generations. I don't really think they've had much impact on the environment, though I suppose that they would have to have built the terraces in the hillsides, which has had an effect on their surroundings. But I don't think it is as substantial as the effect we see in the photo of the ski resort. In that picture, the effect on the environment is much greater. All the machinery needed to run the ski lifts and all those people almost certainly got there by car, with all the pollution that comes with that.
Thank you, Olga. Pierre, in which situation do you think the people are most in harmony with their surroundings?
Well, I agree with Olga. I think the ski resort definitely pollutes more. So I think people are more in harmony with the landscape in the photo with the terraces. I think they're actually rice fields, right? Here it looks like the people are making good use of their surroundings. They don't seem to be causing too much damage, though admittedly we can't rule out the possibility that they're using pesticides or fertilizers. This could cause problems. But I guess they are using them to make a living, and they've left a lot of the surrounding forests intact. Yes, definitely this one.
3.30.
Good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for coming. The aim of today's talk is to update you on the current situation regarding renewable energy use and to convince you that there's a real possibility of becoming 100% dependent on renewable sources of energy within our lifetimes. It is possible. For example, did you know that Costa Rica introduced petrol-electric hybrid cars in 2004, the fully electric car in 2009, and has already achieved between 95 and 99% carbon neutrality with a target to be completely carbon-free by 2021? How have they done this? Well, let's look at the types of energy they've been converting to and some facts and figures to show how much progress we are making worldwide in terms of creating a cleaner, greener planet. Let's begin by looking at hydroelectric power. Now, we all know that the planet is covered in water. And unlike other sources of energy, this source is constantly available. Not only is fast-running water able to generate lots of power by driving turbines, but via the use of purpose-built dams, power output can be regulated to meet demand. And thanks to constant evaporation and precipitation, it really is the ultimate renewable source. It currently constitutes 16% of global electricity produced and is forecast to rise by a further 3.1% each year. Solar power is also growing in popularity, with more and more countries offering subsidies to incentivise both companies and the general public to invest in solar panels. We can harness this natural source not only to create electricity, but it can also be captured efficiently to heat water and our homes. Unlike hydropower, however, this source is not constant and is heavily reliant on such factors as location, time of day and weather conditions. Transference of power can be costly, but it offers huge benefits such as increasing a country's energy security through a reliance on an inexhaustible and import-independent resource. Geothermal energy is provided by harvesting the heat of the Earth's core. Said to be over 6,000 degrees Celsius, which is actually hotter than the surface of the sun, it is estimated that it can produce 50,000 times more power than fossil fuels can provide. Clearly something we can expect to be utilised more in the future. In fact, since 2005, there has been a 20% increase in global geothermal energy production, accounting for a total of 27% and 30% of all energy produced in the Philippines and Iceland respectively. Finally, let us consider wind energy. Already we can see wind turbines gracefully capturing the breeze and being turned into clean electricity by powerful generators. These can be situated in almost any location, anywhere in the world, with both on-land and offshore turbines already generating over 60 times more gigawatts of energy than just 10 years ago. It is also the added benefit of boosting rural growth as power plants and transmission lines are created to bring the energy into more populated areas. At present, as much as 40% of Denmark's energy comes from wind power, and it now accounts for 4% of worldwide energy usage.